Alrighty. And it looks like we are live. Hello, everybody who is live and hanging out with us in chat. The Pathfinders are back after the holiday hiatus.
Well, you're back. I've been here.
Yeah, Nazeris has been here. I have been. December was a whirlwind of a month. So, do you guys? Can you?
No sound. What do you mean no sound? I heard
Oh,
it.
he said sorry. I had it muted.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's the thing is so Blizzrad subbed and
Oh, did that work?
that one will work if you're okay.
Hey, oh, that's a cool ship.
Yeah, I found that little GIF on the interwebs.
That looks like mine.
I don't know. Maybe
I
you
have a
did
little
it.
orange
Yeah.
one. No, I didn't. No,
Oh,
I have a little orange one that I did myself.
so that one worked. Did you guys? If you can let me know in chat if you guys saw that sound alert and heard it. There's a little GIF that plays for that one. And then if we get any more follows or subs, hopefully they work right. They were working correctly in. I saw it, but I didn't hear it.
Oh, weird.
I wonder.
You ruined my green screen again.
Because it plays it on my end, and I don't know if I have to. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. If there's a.
So Blizzrad, on a scale of 1 to 10, how funny would you like?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to play with that. Yeah, because I'm planning on. I would like to stream on.
Okay. That's like the
Let's see. I'm hoping I can stream on Wednesday. I was gonna do a Let's Play stream for Star Sector while Junior's at daycare and my wife is at work. And so I'll troubleshoot that hopefully before then and try and figure out why it's not playing, because the follow things, the sound alerts for the follows should also play a animation for follows, and subs should also play an animation. Okay, well, enough troubleshooting. Yeah, so we are back. The Pathfinders, as in the both of us, we are back. It's good to be back. Had a very busy month in December, so it's good to be back live and hanging out with you guys and talking Star Citizen. Yeah, it's not Pathfinders without a bit of troubleshooting. That's just what Pathfinders
it's
do.
not live stream without a bit of troubleshooting.
Yeah, it's pathfinding. I thought I had it all figured out because it worked out last time, and it totally went off and scared the bejesus out of me. But yeah, so Nazeris and I, we are the Pathfinders, and we are charting the way through all the nebulous information that surrounds Star Citizen and its development. And this evening, we're not doing any Spectrum Pulse or Scan Anomaly segments because we have a good amount of information to cover with the December 21st Roadmap Roundup and the surprise Chris Roberts letter from the chairman that nobody knew was coming or expected. And, Happy New Year. Here it is. So we're gonna.
I mean, it's exactly what people have been asking for. So
yeah, people have been asking for it, and I was just not. We got one in May. I just wasn't expecting one another 6-7 months later.
I'm not gonna I absolutely enjoy it being there, but I kind of sighed the second I saw the post in the news feed and Discord. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be dense. As like, we're not getting a what's it called, monthly report. We get the letter from the chairman. And I also was scared because he doesn't do things if stuff didn't move, and we got to know that stuff moved. So that's gonna be fun to go over.
Yeah. yeah, that's what we've got going on this evening. And uh, next week, no podcast because I will be out of town for work, but then I'll be back for the following 3 weeks. So Nazareth and I are we're doing the same thing CIG is. We're in our planning phase right now, and then we'll be coming out with some more spectrum pulses and scanner anomalies. And so if you're new to the podcast, and especially if you're new to my Discord, if you've got things that you want us to cover, let us know in the Pathfinder section. Pardon me. You can submit a question, and we'll look into it, and we'll deep dive into it together. But yeah, Naz, how you been, bud?
Today is actually really good. So for those who are not new, that's what you said. Anyway, so I started a new thing back on my channel when we just got done doing that today. So I'm gonna be hosting a pre-show for the rest of these going forward. That's one of my new things this year. So we start whether it doesn't matter if we're starting the podcast at 9 or 10, which it kind of shifts around sometimes. But at 8 p.m. EST, I'll be starting a pre-show over on my channel on YouTube. So that went off really well this week. I'm going to try to keep a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in each of our episodes out of it. So it means I just have to get all my stuff done when we're doing segments done before it. But I should be. I've started off this year so far so good as far as getting stuff done that I need to get done. So hopefully we keep the Pathfinder stuff out of the pre-show. But basically, it's just sitting down and talking about anything we feel like talking about, whatever stuff has kind of like been the thing of the week. I also got a new name today, which was fun. But since we aren't doing the podcast next week, it will be a kind of like a full pre-show kind of Star Citizen thing. So we're just gonna just talk about Star Citizen over on my channel on YouTube. So I do streaming and also what's it called? Videos and shorts over there. Tutorial shorts, which will then be turned into full tutorials, videos, and then just opinion pieces and info pieces over there. And we also do some Space News live streams. There's that. On that, like, or with that, I've been like pretty good. I apparently am really good at helping other people get really good channels. Naz is coming through with a mean exho. Excuse you?
Oh, it probably echoed for just a second. So I think I figured out why the sound alert didn't play through, because it played through on my end, but I think I think it came through because it's OBS, and it the OBS played through my headphones instead of going into my sound mixer. And I want to say, okay, bear with us for just a second. Let's see. So, okay, so that's output is going to wavelength system. And if let's see, volume mixer, that output to wavelength system.
What's today? Tomorrow's Tuesday? Oh, we play Star Citizen tomorrow. Okay. I always forget my streaming schedule.
Okay. So I think that may have done it. If anyone has any of enough of my crayons to play a sound alert, if you can trigger it, I want to see if it goes through now. Okay, and now it just echoed. But it echoed for me, but did it echo for everyone?
Dun dun dun.
Nazareth, did it echo for you too, or?
I didn't have the stream sound on because then I hear you twice. Nothing
Still,
on my end. No sound.
still nothing. I heard it twice, and no sound for you guys. Ugh. Okay, whatever. We will The sound of.
I know that song almost by heart now. The Disturbed version, not the was it Simon Garfunkel version? I think that's who did it originally. I think that's who did it.
Okay.
My nose.
We'll bring it back. Okay, beyond the sound alerts not doing what they're supposed to, it's like, what do I even pay you for, sound alert? But I don't pay them. Is the audio between Nazeris, are we both coming in loud and clear? Are we relatively equal? Do I need to adjust anything on mine or his end just to make sure we sound okay? And while you guys are responding to that, I'm going to go ahead and Nazeris, if you're ready, I'm going to transition us over to the Roadmap Roundup screen. Do you have it pulled up?
I forgot to pull up, but yeah.
Okay. And let's see.
Oh, it's actually just right there. Yeah.
All right. Transitioning in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, for me to actually see it. There we go.
Dokie. And Walker 300 saw your videos, the next great capital ship and asteroid story. Oh yeah, the podcast, both great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's always tons of fun to hang out with Paul. Nazeris and I both do captain's table and talk to Paul frequently, and so he's a class act. It's always a good time.
Mm-hmm. I will be on that the second I can. Again, like I love doing. Just forgot the name. Captain's table. Jeez, I just. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, I don't think he's put up the schedule for this next year yet.
Not that I have seen.
He's still on holiday. Yeah, he's still on holiday. It's fine. It's fine. And then I have to make sure that I have off work that Saturday because I always work late on Saturday when I do work. It's just, again, I will not be working at the end of this year at my traditional job. I don't want to. I will not do it. Reddit, I don't like Samsung. Stop trying to I searched Galaxy, and now the internet's like, oh, you want a Samsung phone? So Reddit's like, aha, he wants to be on the Galaxy subreddit. Just like... No. That was the only... Like, if I ever bought a Samsung, it would be a Fold, just because I hate Samsung everything. I might as well get something quirky and interesting. Like, the fact, like, the only fact that needed to convince me to not buy a Samsung is that for years, their theme was Comic Sans. So, no thanks. I will stick with my whatever Android phone. Like, currently I have a Pixel, but I highly doubt it'll be a Pixel next. It'll probably be a PlayStation, an Xperia next. Not because it's a great phone, but just because I'm not loyal to a brand. So I can bounce around and see what everyone else has got. Unless it's a keyboard. I will never not... Keyboard and mouse, however, are never not going to be Logitech ever again. They're going to be Logitech every other time now. That's about the only brand loyalty I have right now.
You got the Roadmap Roundup pulled up?
Yep, I do.
Alrighty. Let's get started.
What are we starting with? Are we starting with the opening thing?
Yeah.
All right.
You act like we've never done this before, dude.
It's been like a month! Anyway, as we do when we read posts by Star Citizen or by CIG, we want to read the opening paragraph. Not only does it give us their words exactly, but it also tells us the intent of this document that we're reading. So, being that this is the Roadmap Roundup, it says, Happy Wednesday, everyone. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the Roadmap update with a brief explanatory note to give you insight into the decision-making that led to any changes. This is part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who help make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's Roadmap Roundup, the CIG community team. And this was posted back on December 21st. So there you go. It's the roundup. The roundup is actually quite short. So notable changes for December 21st, 2022. As mentioned earlier this week, the this week in Star Citizen. Star Citizen Alpha is targeted early 23 release or for release to the live servers. This was a change that week that was said that it wasn't going to be hitting live in 2022. However, like it's been a blink of an eye since the intended release date to now. So anyway, it is now reflected on the 318's release column on the roadmap. No other significant changes to report on this week. Our first roadmap update of the year will be February 8th. So that is... Wait, 8th? Oh, next month, 8th. Okay, we're not getting anything this month. Okay.
No roadmap roundups.
I thought it was going to start in the second or third week of this month. No, so we have to wait till the 8th to get an update. All right. That's super fun. That's fun. Okay. Anyway, this update will include both extensions to the upstream and downstream teams. Nice. Upstream, downstream, for those who don't know, are upstream teams are the ones who have like the big ticket items and who are scheduled a year out, and then downstreams are only scheduled a quarter out, so they get new updates as each quarter is completed. And they a lot of their teams are stuff that they just kind of like pick up the ends and bits that are needed for whatever the upstream teams are doing. Majority, not all of them, but the majority.
When that finally comes out, that's basically going to be its own episode for the podcast. Because they normally, when we get the beginning of the new quarter updates,
they're chunky.
They're chunky, but they usually come out in bits and pieces, like over like 3 2-week periods. So over a month and a half, they'll give you, the upstream, 3/4 of the upstream teams, and then the next one will be the last bit of upstream plus part of the downstream, and then the third one will be the last bit of the downstream. Well, this is saying that it'll have all of it all in one. And each time we get, when Nazeris and I go through those at the beginning of the new quarter, when they're updating the roadmap in a big way like that, the progress tracker, those are a lot of information. Well, holy crap, this is this is gonna be
I really
huge.
hope they do not do a January month report, or it's gonna take us the entire month to get through all the information.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh boy. All right. To finish off what's been said, so scheduled further into 2023, as well as the addition of features to the 319 column. Happy Luminaria, which is the Christmas event thing that is Banu related, I believe, in Star Citizen.
Yep.
And we'll see you next year. That is everything that was on the Roadmap Roundup. So that's like nothing really big change except for like some housekeeping stuff. Wait,
and that was the weird thing, because like the let's see. I wonder here. So the Roadmap Roundup didn't have anything being added, but
there's been a ton of stuff added.
Yeah, and a ton of stuff updated, and so it's like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? So yeah, I thought it was interesting that
actually the stuff that was added,
Jake was sneaky.
Is actually
like
not added. Okay, that's the wrong one. The Delta. I opened the wrong one. The stuff that was added. Remember, for us, it was for the ShinyTracker. It was added, but for them, it was they switched out cards. So the Polaris was already there, the Galaxy was already there, and the unannounced.
No, the Polaris
was added.
Wasn't there.
It wasn't?
Nope. Polaris wasn't. It wasn't an unannounced or anything like that. It was just all of a sudden, hey, we're going to start working on this in the beginning of April.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what the big thing was. I was like, Jake was sneaky about adding the Polaris. What?
Because they had like done a lot of talking about it on the Star Citizen shows. Like we just went through that in the pre-show. Like they talked about it. They talked about exactly where and why and where they're at with it.
Yeah.
And they literally said, "Hey, we're looking at where to add this to the schedule, to the production, to starting Greybox." And then a week or so later, the roadmap comes out. And it's like nothing's changed, but that was actually added.
Mm-hmm.
But like everyone who pays attention knew that they were looking for that. Interesting. It's just very interesting. Like the
Well, and it
galaxy wasn't
was
technically added because that
yeah,
wasn't announced before.
yeah, it was just changed to announce, and it's interesting because so all it, it was, and it wasn't the one that I thought it was, which is also
Ooh.
interesting, and very good because the one that I thought it was is a very long concept art phase,
Oh.
and it
I wonder if it's
wasn't.
a bigger alien ship.
Yeah. But then there's this unannounced was added that's going
Mm-hmm.
into production.
Oh
Versus
yeah.
before that, before this change, there wasn't really any unannounced ships going into production. It was just unannounced ships in concept still. So let's go ahead and we'll pull these up real quick before we move on to the ones that are getting updated. So I thought for sure that the RSI Galaxy concept was. Let's see here. We'll open that up in another tab, and I'll show you the one that I thought it was.
What are you doing,
And
Cat? What? I'm
wow.
kind of in the middle of something. What are you doing?
See that sound
What?
alert? That sound alert is working. The cat sound alert.
Yeah. Yes. Practical effects.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Was it
Hi.
this one? Yeah. So this is the one that I thought was the Galaxy.
Oh wow,
A
that is a
ship,
very long one. How many weeks is that?
67 weeks. Although
Wow.
it's 67 weeks.
Part time.
Well, I think it's one. Sorry, two
Well, aren't
artists.
most concepts one dev, two devs?
A lot of them
Like
are one devs, but one sometimes two devs. Like this one's one artist for 37 weeks, but this one's two artists for 67 weeks for the concept phase. Whereas
that's a
the
lot of work.
Galaxy, um, let's see, the Galaxy was four artists in 19 weeks. So even if you um,
Okay.
it's still double the amount of concept work essentially, because
Well,
this
hold
is
on.
19 weeks at four devs. Whereas if you changed, if you
That's 67
divided,
weeks, right?
yeah, if you divided 67 weeks by two to essentially say it's four devs working on it, you could reasonably say that four devs were working on it for 34 weeks,
So if you go to the scheduled
almost twice as
deliveries,
long.
um, it's the first unannounced vehicle under scheduled deliveries, not the Delta.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, there's almost no work on the schedule on it. It's just unnecessarily
Oh,
long.
because they
Like,
picked it up and put it down.
yeah, there's 4 weeks of concept on here, all last year. Or
Let's
no,
see.
2 weeks, because 4 dashes are 2 weeks. Every 2 dashes is 1 week. Yeah, no
Well,
work. It's just
this is based on quarter though. So let's. I wonder if we can find this one, because this is showing us that one those 4 weeks essentially.
yeah.
And so there wasn't anything going on, in essentially December, November.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have to go to a
Yeah, remember I don't think the
previous
Shiny Tracker
report.
has gotten updated since the last roadmap update.
Well, it got updated for the one on the 21st.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. We'll go back to this. So we'll open up this one. We'll go back to. I wish they had further ones going back so you could track things over a longer period. Let's see. So we'll go
Yeah. But
here
that's just
and
probably running into data cap.
yeah. Let's see.
We still have to
Two.
find it. We still have to get him on the show.
Yeah.
So what are we looking for?
I was looking to see if we could find that unannounced vehicle that's in concept with two devs, two concept artists
It started.
prior
No, that's,
to.
well, it had to be on a report that came out post them adding Q1 23 because that's when it starts.
Well, no, it started back in February of 22.
Oh, then we're looking at two different ones.
Let's see.
Because this says the one we were looking at says starting on 230101 through 230216.
Yeah. But if you click on it, it'll pull up the thing and that'll show you that it's part of that 67-week concept art. And so they're
Oh, that's
picking
right.
it back up, but we don't know when they put it down.
I imagine it was. No, it's not before because that would have actually stretched before the roadmap. But no, it starts in February of last year. Very interesting.
And that's the hard thing is keeping the Shiny Tracker is a really great tool, but keeping track of an individual thing, especially the unannounced ones, is really difficult.
All right, we're past half an hour. Ugh. So we're gonna
Okay.
get half an hour of hat.
Yep.
It's
Let's
hot
see.
in here.
Oops. That's not what I meant to do. Reopen close tab. We'll go back to this one.
I mean, I'm aiming for 4K. I don't know why you'd pick a resolution of 2023. That seems an odd. Like, what's your aspect ratio? Sorry. I mean, it's 2K. I mean, I guess it's good. I don't know. It's fine.
So the good thing is, even though there wasn't anything on the official roadmap that was added, they did add the Polaris.
Mhm.
Hooray! Going into production. So the first part of the sprint starts there. It only goes out to here, but that just means that when we get the downstream, the big update in beginning of February, then it'll get extended out. Almost guarantee it. Unless this
Oh,
was an oops or a misclick or something by Jake, you know. But yeah,
I doubt it. I think
yeah,
he's a bit more skilled than that.
he's very meticulous. Obviously, the Galaxy was changed from unannounced, and then whatever this unannounced vehicle is going into production. So,
Which
but it's just a part-time sprint, which is interesting though, because of the way that it's scheduled with the amount of load. It seems odd that with that many with the load, the only thing I can think of is the calculation is weird because of the break or something, or they're picking up and putting it back down. I wonder. Whatever. At least there's another unannounced vehicle going into production. Obviously, the C8R was updated. Argo SRV got the end date was extended just a couple of weeks by adding more vehicle content work. But that's what's interesting to me is that the amount of updates that they did. It's interesting that they did these updates when they did because so many of these updates are related to the vehicle content team, which is an upstream team.
yeah, that is weird.
Yeah. So they're making little changes, especially of things that are already.
I wonder if that was because of the rescheduling between 318 dropping into Q1 23 and 40 dropping to Q4 2023. I
Yeah.
wonder if like this was like the beginning of hey, stuff needs to get moved around, so this is going to be all here. And
Well,
this is
and
just like the foreshadowing of the whole
with vehicle content,
rescheduling.
remember with the vehicle Q&A for on Star Citizen Live during or IAE,
The Super
they
Talk?
talked. Yeah, they were talking about how they're trying. They're literally in planning, decision making, of what they're going to do. Well, they made their decision on the Banu Merchantman, and so they stopped working on it essentially, in November and freed
Which
up all these people from vehicle content, design devs, artists, all that. And those people were essentially, given over to other things in order to, provide that work that they're talking about, working on other ships and supporting other teams, like continuing the Argo SRV, like work, doing the scheduled work for Bounty Hunter V2 because obviously that's a priority.
Mhm. Like, as
Vehicle
much as I love
content,
to
you know,
harvest the tears of Banu merchantman owners, like, one, the later the ship comes in, the better it will be. Two, the fact that we have no bizarre gameplay and we're not going to have it for probably the next 3 years or so, and we have no Banu, like, I do understand. I definitely understand. Like, I've had an Orion, I'm pretty sure, at one point. Like, I love the Starfarer. That was also one that was a really long in development. And still needs rework because it's bad. But the, it does lack sense to try and shoehorn the Banu Merchantman into a game where we don't even have the resource manager. like like
yeah, I get that it
I'm
hurts,
trying to
but I
sympathize with the like
well, and I
even
think
though
it would help a lot if they talked about why they decided to start working on it. Because yeah, that's the thing. It's like, okay, I was like, I okay. When they first said they were working on it, I was like, okay, you're working on it. Are you really that confident in the gameplay coming for it that soon? I didn't see it, but I was like, all right, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I just know what they show us, here. And as we got closer and closer to this point, it's like, why the hell are they working on that ship?
I think it was
Yeah, it's been in the
more
backlog for a long time, but that doesn't justify it being made if the gameplay isn't there for it. Hey,
I,
Ionic,
I
what's going on?
I think it was more getting through the reconcepting of all the old ships,
Mm-hmm.
and they just like took it a bit far with the reconcepting that we got a almost gray box. Was the exterior gray box or was the exterior
Yeah,
just white box complete?
exterior is pretty much gray box complete. It sounded like,
Okay, yeah, I
and
think they
the
just took the
interior
reconcepting
was
too
just
far.
white box. Yeah, they did all the reconcept work, and they're like, hey, we've got these people available, so let's get started.
Yeah, yeah,
And unfortunately, they hyped that up far more than they should have. They
yeah.
should,
I
they
think they're
really
just
could.
trying to get through their
Yeah.
backlog of reconcepting the work they need to do because
Hmm.
once they reconcept everything that they have, it
Yep.
will be a lot easier to slot them into the pipeline going
Yeah.
forward.
Especially because Reconcept is entire white box.
Yeah.
3D white box in engine, in editor, ready to go. Like if you look at the update that we got for the Polaris or what they got when they showed off the Galaxy after selling it, that white box tour that we got. That's what concept phase done looks like now. And so when they do that, it means that when it does go into production, it's much further along, as far as work, and being ready to go.
Let's see what
And
are
I mean, that's why the Crucible was originally scheduled to have its reconcept done. They're just going along down the line with those older ships for reconcepting. But yeah,
I just realized there's not a lot
uh,
of anvil to go.
it seems like it was a big misstep announcing that they're putting the Banu Merchantman into production if they really didn't have strong intentions to finish it. But everybody makes mistakes, and it is what it is. But that
I think
people are
actually
going to be butthurt
there
about
are
that for a long
three
time.
ships, I believe, waiting for a reconcept, and then we're done. Because the Orion already had its reconcept way back when they started shooting to white box.
Yeah, or at least to some
Crucible,
extent.
Endeavor, and Genesis are the only ones left,
Hmm.
which they're all 2014 concepts.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're actually doing some pretty good work in that. Yeah,
Yeah. But
they
you
should
can
they should
see
say
that
that like
it did it. I think it's sort of a little bit of it. If you own a Banu Merchantman and you look at this and you're like, okay, I can see where all that work that was scheduled, I can see where that is going. The work for the cargo system refactor, work for the Argo SRV, for Bounty Hunter V2. There's a lot of vehicle content um, stuff that is okay. Hey, the Banu Merchantman isn't getting worked on, but all these other things, are we're getting a lot of consolation prizes that, when you add
Yep.
them all up, it adds a lot to the game in the short term. Um, the I would imagine some of the people that were working on the Banu Merchantman are the ones who are going to continue to work on the whole sea. Um, and who knows when that's coming. It's hard to know because they just keep on working on stuff. It's like, what are you guys working on? The monthly report said it was, pretty much done. I get it's heartening to see them still working on it. It means that they're wanting to get it done, but give us some sort of idea. Like, are you working on getting it done because you think the game's going to be ready for it, in Q2 or something? And
That's that.
I've been
That's the part
begging.
of the roadmap roundups that they don't they say they want to do, but they don't like it doesn't make it into the words that they like is to give insight to
Mhm.
why the decision was made.
Yes,
They
exactly.
tell us the decision
Yeah.
and where it went, but they don't
What's
tell us
the
why they
insight?
made that decision.
Yeah. What's the insight to that decision making? We decided we're going to do this. Why? And so you get some of that in the roadmap roundup, but but it's only for certain things. And there's so many other
Hmm.
things that, obviously we are able to see and like, okay, that's fine, but why? You um,
Yeah,
hooray.
and
The links is in production and going to continue to be in production, and they're prioritizing it. Again, more
how
people from
old is
vehicle
the
content.
Lynx? Lynx
Old.
is also 2014.
Yeah.
So same as the Crucible, Endeavor, Genesis, Javelin.
Hmm.
Also Gladius, Aquila, Phoenix, Core, Warden, Ursa, Freelancer series, Mustang series, Cutlass Red, Blue, Prowler, Taurus, Redeemer.
Hmm. One thing that
Like I didn't expect all those things. The stuff that's released. The Lynx feels so much older than the Gladius though.
yeah.
But the Gladius was like once they nailed down Squadron, they like made the Gladius.
Hmm.
Which was 2014 when they released the 2016 video.
What I think is interesting is the change to the resource management sprint and
What
vehicle
changed?
content.
What changed? Hold on.
Vehicle
Bear with
content
me.
EU freed up 39 days of work.
Freed up threat.
Obviously, that's a priority because they're talking. That we'll get to that here in the bit with the letter from the chairman, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know if there was any other changes regarding it prior to that. They um, or it'll be interesting to see, like, okay, we pulled these people from it because we've already got people committed from US vehicle content, or something like that. Um, because we know how big of a priority that is as
Mm-hmm.
far as the amount of people working on it and scheduled to work on it with the different teams. Or, they could have had a breakthrough, we don't know. But
Yeah.
that
Like
was
it
an
is
interesting one for
possible.
me because it's not like they're deprioritizing that.
Right. It is possible. Like there's sometimes, not often, not once in a blue moon, way not often, that your schedule and the bugs you expected to find were not the bugs you found, and the ones you found were actually a lot easier to get through. Or let's say like they were working a thing, and then another team actually found the crack for that bug already, and you just took their fix for it. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's totally possible they didn't run into as much problems as they thought, and they may have overscheduled, which is how they've said they've scheduled for as long as they've been scheduling. They do schedule in margin for error. Just most of the time, there are 50, there are like 500 points of data that they use to schedule a team. One of those is like headcount and their growth in headcount, their bugs and the bugs that they'll expect to encounter, the difficulty, the scheduling of those devs, and a lot of that all shifts without anyone saying so. Like somebody gets sick, or someone else puts in some code that makes more bugs than they thought. The tech wasn't where they thought it was going to be. They didn't get to hire that person, so a lot of it shifts around. It's possible that the person who was there was able to not take or didn't go on vacation, or the tech just worked with them. No one made new bugs. Like, it's possible that they scheduled way better than, like, not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'd like,
remember when they were talking about the schedule and how they plan, and how basically with the was it with the cutter, John Crew was saying that they literally got it right to the day
mm-hmm,
with
mm-hmm.
the planning how many people were needed, for how many days, and like this is their new schedule, the new way they do it going forward, so they should be a lot more accurate, which is just nuts that they got it down to the day. For, I mean, it's a smaller ship, so yeah, it's easier to
Yep.
be accurate, but even if it's a bigger ship and they get it down to within a couple weeks, or so, or a month, like that's huge. So it'll be interesting to see how that sort of pans out, to sort of track the ships and everything, see if things get moved around as much.
Yeah,
Um,
I imagine even when they go to tackle the Kraken, I imagine that will still get delayed.
mhm. Oh yeah,
Like, I can understand, like, they get a day, a week, a couple weeks accurate on every single seat ship going forward. Totally understand that. I expect that almost.
hmm
But the second you get multi-crew, it's like, no, there's too many moving parts. Too many.
yeah,
If they can get within a month, I'll be shocked.
hmm
Nothing to bad mouth the devs. I'm just saying, like, there are moving parts and they move. Imagine the Kraken getting bigger. The Kraken's not getting bigger. It's full interior white boxed.
yeah. Well, what they said is that the cargo bay isn't quite big enough to hold the amount of cargo that they have for it, based off the 1.25 meters squared for per SCU. And so that the
Mm-hmm.
cargo bay would have to stretch a little bit, but literally all they're going to do is take the cargo bay and make it fatter.
Yep.
They don't have to do anything else for the rest of the ship. Like everybody, when that came out, everybody's like, "Oh, sweet, the Kraken's going to get bigger." And I'm like, "Why would the Kraken get bigger when all they have to do is make the cargo bay fat?" Would I mean, which is good, because it doesn't mean that it'll carry more cargo, but it does mean that the how big it is, as far as interior space for you to use for whatever, is going to be bigger than we might have originally thought. And Walker 300 says question, and I actually need to figure out how to do that, so that way those things pop up, like we get a
That's
sort of
you're gonna need
signal.
to get an extra program.
Oh, yay, more thing. I can't even get sound alerts to work
Yep. First get sound
consistently.
alerts to work, then ask
But
Paul what software he uses to
yeah,
actually log the
because
questions.
eventually I would love for us to be able to have that for like end of.
Yeah, so we can do it like all at the end instead of having to
Mhm.
scroll up to find them.
I
Yeah.
noticed that
No,
one
I
of
get
the
it.
elevators at New Babbage Spaceport has red lights on it with a restricted notice on it. Is that typical, or is it possible that's reserved for newer upcoming gameplay? I guarantee
Yes.
you, every door in every landing zone that says restricted, you know, um, or just doesn't open, like especially like the alleys in Area 18, those will go to other areas, and either you will have to have the reputation, the permissions from whatever
Or
faction,
just hack it.
org or something like that, or hack, or cut it open, that sort of stuff. Um, in order to get past that and to go to those other areas, there'll be gameplay, and those will be areas that they flesh out. We just don't know what exactly they are, but especially like the back alley ones in Area 18, those are the ones I want to know about. Like, what crime lord back here, or shady, business thing back there, are you going to be able to find? um but yeah, they are everywhere throughout the verse. They're in the space stations and stuff, and those doors are going to go to things eventually.
If not get
um
moved. Like, I have a slightly different opinion, which is they were just put there for art. Most of them were put there either for art, or the ones in New Babbage Spaceport with
oh, this is a
the,
hangar
like,
door in
commercial landings. Those have
318.
purpose.
In 317, it's a regular hangar elevator, like in the are you talking about in the room with all the ASOP terminals, where you call your ship up?
It can't be. Those were always used.
One of the doors that goes to a hangar which was changed. That's the one. Huh, interesting. I don't know. I would say that if it's in 318 like that, I wouldn't be surprised if it has something to do with, well, the domestic flights, those
If
like
that has purpose, we know
yeah,
that.
yeah, the sort of like terminal area, where you go to catch your, probably wouldn't be a Genesis, but your Spirit E1 flight from Microtech to Orison. That's a different area. You're not going to go down into a hangar to catch those flights, unless like if it's an NPC one. If you're if you're getting picked up by a player under contract, then you'll go down to the hangar. But if it's blocked off now and over in that area and it wasn't blocked off before, I wouldn't be surprised if if that has something, if that there's a reason for that, gameplay wise. But don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Um, so wrapping up uh, the progress tracker Delta report. Ship CPUs, end date was moved earlier. Basically, this is just probably some housekeeping on Jake's part, where okay, the people that were working on this got reprioritized a while back, and now he's getting around to removing that part of the sprint to sort of reflect that it's not continuing to get worked on. Interesting, Squadron 42 vehicle support. That is this is one of those things that's very nebulous, and I had 2 beers with dinner, so I don't have a third one right now. But Squadron 42 vehicle support. Here, let's look at the actual description for it.
Walker, if you could get a image or location for that door, I would love to look into that more. Because I looked up a tour of 317. I don't see an orange light door.
Well, it was open in 317 and 318. It's not.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it went the other way around. Okay. So 318, it's got orange lights on it?
Apparently, or caution tape or some shit. Yeah, some cones that say wet floor. But you can see that there's been a whole lot of work on this sort of nebulous sprint for Squadron 42 vehicle support, because it's an all-encompassing thing in order to just polish and iterate on polishing and iterating on various vehicles needed for the Squadron 42 single player campaign. And you can see that they're doing a lot of work on the vehicles in order to basically get them up to gold standard for, and they mentioned that in that SCL with the vehicle team. They're talking about that Squadron 42 gold standard work. And they're basically getting this, the ships in Squadron 42 gold standard ready. And they make it like this so that way they just don't have a whole bunch of individual sprints listings for those different vehicles, but it also allows them to hide things in here that are unannounced. If you've watched one of my lore equals gameplay videos, you know what I'm probably talking about. Because, and the other thing is there is a similar sprint just for the Vandal fleet, and there's a similar sprint just for enemy ships, Squadron 42 enemy ships. So this one is one to keep an eye on. It's good that they are focusing on the Squadron 42 vehicles in order to get them ready. It's a good indicator of where Squadron 42 is. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as stuff on the Delta report for the progress tracker. But let's just go through the scheduled deliverables really quick in order to look at these.
That's a lot of them.
Yeah. There's 41 working on 30. We don't have to look at everything. The biggest ones are.
Oh, there's even more. There's a header that says click me. There's even more data.
Yeah. I don't do that
Oh my
stuff just
gosh.
because there's a whole lot of nebulous stuff. I'm not going to do that on stream, but these are the things that are being worked on right now. the active sprints right now. And so you can see that the teams come back, go back and forth working on different things. Shiny pop-up tracker. I don't know. But this is what it's always good to at least check up on this and see what they're working on, just to see, what's a priority and what is a focus, right now and for the near future, rather than, oh, okay, well, the sprint goes through this period, but they're not actually working on it at this point. They've, put it on the back burner and then they're picking it up, but the whole sprint goes through here. So this is how you keep context with those things. And that's why, Bounty Hunter V2, see it mentioned here, see all the teams working on it. Yes, it was a priority. They talked about how much of a priority it was. Pardon me. Back in the letter from the chairman 7 months ago, they were talking about, they wanted to have it out before the end of this year. Well, they've been working on, like if you go back and you look at the scheduled deliverables report and look at the Bounty Hunter V2 sprint, you can see that they've been continuously working on that all year long. And then you can also look at the associated tech that's part of the quantum simulation, the other AI related services, and you can see how much work that has been done on those, as well as when it ended, which is a really good indicator. That the back end to support Bounty Hunter V2 seems to be nearly done. And it's, now the gameplay teams are, the people that, basically put it, into the game and tie it to the back end are doing all their, are doing a lot of work, getting their work done. And we talked about this because Nazeris and I did a big Spectrum Pulse on it. You can see there's a whole lot of teams working on it, but we know
Bounty Hunter
who's
V2 is kind
continuing.
of one of the big steps to a lot of gameplay.
Oh yeah, and systemic gameplay.
Yes, yeah, and it's Bounty Hunter V2 plus Cargo Refactor basically is the foundation of future gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily those two gameplay specifically, but all the things that those two pieces of gameplay touch.
Yeah, the things they are tied into, it's a web. But
they cover
these services,
yeah, they cover everything from haulers to pirates to VMPCs to subsumption, NPC tracking, ledgers, criminality, supply and demand, the resource system. Like, it touches everything. So those two things alone touch like 90% of the gameplay of future Star Citizen.
Mm-hmm. It was an SCL in December when they were talking about working on building interiors. Location concept art is working on the interiors, the concept art for building interiors, and the Montreal team is getting started on it. So, there it is. We'll scroll through the Squadron 42 stuff. Cutting Tier 2. They're working on that because that's important, because we're going to be able to cut through things, pretty soon, along with, hacking, etc. The freight
hacking
elevators.
And then concussive hacking.
Yeah. Concussive maintenance. Yeah. EVA Tier 2 for the freight elevators. They talked about how, we need freight elevators to, further iterate on the cargo factor and hauling gameplay. Well, that's a big priority right now. The audio is downstream, and the fact that they're doing audio work on the derelict spaceship points of interest is a good thing, because it means that we will. It's a strong indicator that we're going to be seeing a lot more of these in the very near future, especially because with PES coming online and them being able to effectively stream, all the entities associated with things like derelicts, get them on and off the server so that they aren't bogging down the server. The universe is going to start to feel a lot more full over the next couple quarters. New player experience, thank God. Yes,
4% inheritance. Yes.
and oh, here we'll keep going, but um,
Persistent streaming.
let's see. Obviously, they have a lot of people working on that and are going to continue to work on that. Um, but
Yeah, we'll also be covering server meshing a little more in depth in the part about the letter, because we got a new definition or a new kind of mini roadmap of the technology they're planning for server meshing. So we
mhm,
actually have a new definition that's going to be added to our lexicon.
yep. Um, and it's interesting here on resource management. They on the let's see here, duplicate. We'll go back up to the top. So we're going to look at the resource management on the uh, Delta report, and then we'll look at the resource management on the scheduled deliverables report, and we'll compare and contrast. So,
That's weird.
Yeah, so the they freed up 39 days of work. So the resource management vehicle content EU freed up 39 days of work for art devs. But resource management right here, vehicle content US, one art, one design dev, EUPU gameplay feature team. When the EUPU gameplay feature team is working on stuff, they are taking a feature that has been made by other teams and implementing it into the verse. That's what the gameplay feature team does. Is they take that feature, the however that mechanic works, and then they implement it into the verse and make it usable, make it so we can actually do it.
You should open up the bars in that one.
Yeah, very busy.
It's as far as the sprint that was there, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
As far as this tracker is concerned, which
Yeah.
means it is almost certain that is a 319 feature. That the
Well, so
resource manager will be at least a ship in 319.
Yeah, I think we will see the introduction of it as part of 319, and then they'll continue to add more to it over the year, because here's the USPU gameplay feature team, which is an upstream team. They get scheduled out a year in advance, so they'll be working on this right up until 319 launches. I think 319 is probably going to be like just like 317 was a it was 317 that was it was supposed to be Q1 last year, and it ended up being like into April. I think we're gonna have the same thing with 319. Gameplay feature team will be working on it for whatever ships they're introducing it with as part of 319. But then look at where you have the vehicle content teams are continuing to work on it after. Let's see where. Oh, here we'll pull it up on the progress tracker.
The problem with showing new hires, it doesn't always mean the same thing. You could have a college student is a new hire. Sure, he made the coffee vendor that we got. Or you could have a new hire, literally like the guy lead artist of like was the Jedi Fallen Order. They don't equate to the same thing. So just saying this guy was recently hired doesn't mean the same thing depending on who's being hired.
Mm-hmm.
And the game industry is always moving people around. We've seen a couple of people. I think the one we know where she went is Sarah McCullen. Sarah McCullen went to go work at, I think it was, I forget what the studio is called, but basically the studio that made Wipeout, and she got to go work on Wipeout, and that's her dream job. There's been another one that recently left for Ubisoft because he's always wanted to work at Ubisoft, so he got to go do his dream job. That kind of thing keeps happening all around the industry, and I bet you there has been somebody hired by CIG, came from another studio because, or we've heard of actually some stories that they've came from other studios because Star Citizen's doing stuff that they really enjoy. So, just marking somebody as new hire doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Good sentiment, but There's
You
no
can,
data there.
yeah. And there's only so much information you can show, really. Otherwise, it just turns into clutter. Um, again,
We're not here to stalk the education of dads. We don't need that. This was a
yeah.
college student, or this has got 5 years of experience. That's LinkedIn stuff. That's not the progress tracker stuff.
hmm And let's see.
What?
Um, deliverables scheduled to begin or continue work within 2 weeks. Santok Yai, we know that was going into production. They talked about that in that SCL. Aerodynamic control services. Interesting. Engineering dev, getting started on that, continuing that work, which is, that's a good thing. Will make atmospheric flight far more interesting and challenging, along with
And that will be the
adding
downfall of the cutter.
so many people. But yeah, and that and the actual we have the thrusters efficiency curves are in the game, but they are not anywhere. They're very easy, and they're not meant to be the way they are right now. It's going to be far more challenging in the future, but they've got the base tech in there. It's kind of like with the room system. The room system is in the game. It just doesn't really work yet because they haven't added everything that goes with it. The room system's going
Which
to
I
start working when
believe,
we
yeah,
get the resource management and life support and all that.
which is a couple ones down.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Crusader Spirit in production, Argo SRV in production, jump points. Working on them. Got to get jump points ready for going to Pyro. Life support, they talked about how that's a priority, and they're almost done with that in the monthly reports. Gameplay feature team working on it, so they are taking the tech and the that feature and implementing it into the PU. Lockable containers, again, EUPU gameplay feature team is implementing a thing that has been made by another team into the PU.
Which another thing, like a lot of this stuff, but this one specifically, we've been able to see, and this is actually something that I'm probably going to trend for my videos going through the entire year. The mission that we saw running in the Pyro demo, the 3 ways to play Pyro mission, that might actually be possible when we get there. And no other game showcase has been possible when we get there. So when we had the microtech thing, when they actually first went to Pyro, we didn't have Pyro and we didn't have that mission. But that mission may actually be pretty possible when we get there. Lockable containers was one of the things in that mission. And we have the the places even in the game now in 318. AI's I'm not going to put any stock in AI working.
And even if we don't have hacking yet, but I think they'll introduce the two. They're working on cutting tier 2, and maybe you have to either find the code on a body, or you have to have the Pyro multi-tool, the cutting attachment, in order to get into the lockable container, to get that loot, and you're going to want to get that loot because they'll put the good stuff, or they might even put mission items in there. But yeah, it's whenever I see EUPU gameplay feature team working on something, I get excited for that thing. MFD rework, they we'll talk more about that when we get to the
letter.
Chairman letter. Yep.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people were getting excited about the Origin X1 going into production. It's just one design dev working on it for a month.
Yes. However, it's not even on there.
North End EU what?
It's
which
only
team?
It's only 2 weeks of actual work. I forget where it is. But where did I even find that? Oh, because the ShinyTracker doesn't actually have the different features on it. The X1 has it had its vehicle feature is being worked on now, and it had its concept back in February 22 Q1, and then there's 2 weeks of US vehicle content where they actually build the thing and put it in the game. It's taken 73 weeks for 2 weeks of work. Well, 2 weeks of actual like geometry work. Apparently, they need to update the something about the feature of it.
Yeah.
And the concept was done way back in February of last year. Hilarious. It's just been the butt of jokes for a year. It's hilarious. I like it. 2 weeks of geometry.
They're continuing to use Rastar to make all sorts of outposts, the independent and outlaw. We've seen, the independent ones, the ones you saw in the Pyro demo in 2021. That was a independent outpost. The outlaw ones are the ones you saw all the concept artwork with the jail and like the machine guns and stuff. That's the stuff that they've been working on for the outlaw theme variants. Persistent hangars, we were just talking about that with the freight elevators, because the freight elevators is where'd it go?
That's another potential 319.
I know it was. Didn't we see freight elevators on the
progress report?
I could have sworn it was on here somewhere.
I don't think so.
I'm losing my mind. Anyway, we saw it, but freight elevators and persistent hangars are both.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Freight elevators both being worked on. Again, the USPU gameplay feature team working on that January through March with engineering devs for now. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to be a 319 thing. I think it might be a
320.
If we get a 320 or 319.x, I think with 319 we're going to see it be just like 317 was this last year.
Okay.
I think as they continue to
I think they're figuring out that they could just like not stop working on stuff and they could just like finish stuff.
Yeah, because they talked about how 317.2 really could have been its own patch, and I think they're going to continue to iterate on PES as they're working. There'll be a lot of people, the networking people are going to be working on server meshing, but there's going to be some people, on the stay behind team with PES who continue to iterate it, add in those additional services that they've been working on, and then you'll also have, I think 319's major feature is going to be Bounty Hunter V2 with the associated services as part of the Quantum. So
I don't think freight elevators has anything to do with ships and ground vehicles.
No, I don't think we'll be moving any vehicles
cargo.
through freight elevators.
Because it's for freight. I forget where I saw the explanation. It might be in the letter, but it's specifically, it's kind of like the ASOP for your cargo. So you can, let's say, buy 100 SCU of titanium, have it delivered to your hangar, but it doesn't show up in your hangar. It shows up in your cargo elevator. You go to your hangar, and then you say, I request, my cutter can hold 8 SCU of titanium. So we pull up, give me 8 SCU of titanium, and the elevator comes up. You have 8 SCU of titanium. You load it into your ship. You fly.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
You can see the freight elevators in the hangars right now. They're already in game. They just don't function. And so all they're doing is making them function and then tying them to the back end, so that way things appear out of the ether, from the entity graph or the quantum economy, and then appear in that elevator, and then it goes up into the elevator and the door opens and magically you can see it now. And then, or if you're putting something away, or sending something off to quantum or the entity graph, you put it in the elevator and the doors close and it gets stored away, and streamed off the server, doors. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Magic doors. It is the, what do they call them for the NPCs? The NPC locker, what, not lockers.
I know what you mean.
The NPC spawn lockers. It's a spawn locker
for
but
cargo.
it's a freight, but for cargo and supplies and all sorts of other stuff.
Which for Hercules and Caterpillar. Oh boy, Caterpillars are just gonna be useless for next year.
Mhm.
Um, for Hercules players, it's just gonna be. I hope you're running with friends if you're trying to fly a Hercules and do some cargo, because ooh, that's a lot of cargo. Oh
Um,
boy.
Obviously, persistent streaming and server meshing. This is just the overall sprint for the deliverable. Remember, this is not an all-inclusive thing because the individual services that get tied into, they talked about 18 services for PES, 4 services for server meshing. Those have their own separate deliverable on the progress tracker. But obviously, you can see that there are a whole bunch of teams working on this, in single deliverable. Um,
And no, North End Trooper, the elevators in the underground facilities, current or future, have nothing to do with the cargo elevators for hangars.
yeah,
No relation.
they the ones that we saw in Underground 2.0 are elevators taking you to different levels of the underground facilities, but those underground facilities will have freight elevators. If you think about it, those underground facilities, like when Nazeris and I talked about the quantum economy before, in gosh, was that 2 podcasts ago? The Tony Z talked about how he wants factories and production nodes to be physicalized in game. And so if you're picking up cargo, that is something that is manufactured in a city, initially it probably isn't going to be a physical location in a city, just that cargo for the
Initially.
power plants. Yeah. The power plants eventually, are just going to show up in your freight elevator in your hangar for you to take to where ArtCore, wants you to have them delivered because somebody ordered them. But if you're picking up, um, weapons made by Bearing at their underground facility, which is a giant factory, in order to, they've sold this many of whatever type of gun, to, this buyer, maybe it's a some store on Microtech or a station, and you need to deliver them in order for them to go into those inventory. Well, you'll go to that underground facility where those are being produced. They'll pop up in a freight elevator there next to the landing pad or the hangar there, and then it'll get loaded up into your ship, and off you go. That's how the quantum simulation is supposed to work, and that the actual location where that thing is produced is where you pick it up to take it to where that thing is consumed or sold. Um,
Yeah.
just like with
And
the mining facilities, those underground facilities will do a bunch of different things, but you're still going to have outposts that produce things, and you're going to go to those outposts. You'll produce raw goods, and you'll take those raw goods to wherever they're needed to make a finished product, like an underground facility or a city, like a landing zone on ArtCore, if that makes sense.
yeah, and it's not your fault, Trooper. Like everything that is miscommunicated or misunderstood, all of that lies on CIG.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally they have an entire team. It's called the community. It's their job to make sure you understand things. Now, yes, that does sound kind of harsh that any misunderstanding is CIG's fault, but that's literally their job.
Yeah.
Is to make sure the community understands. Like
The
the
thing is,
fact
the
that they're
community team
able,
is grossly understaffed, and there's
yeah, that
an
too.
inordinate amount of information to communicate. So
Yeah, and
they
the fact
do
that
a
they're
good job
able,
with the resources they have available to them.
very much so,
But
yes. The fact that they're able to kind of just point at community members and content creators as, hey, no, guy has good information, is not uh, a crutch, but it's like it's a positive. It's like a blessing to them. Like uh, it, but is their ultimately it does lead back to it's their fault. It's not your fault.
mhm. Yeah, there will be freight elevators there, but they're just the ones that we're getting that they're working on right now are the ones that will be going to our persistent hangars first, and eventually they'll just use the same tech for underground facilities. There'll be an asteroid facilities too. Yeah. Persistent hangars, well, yeah, and not even just your persistent hangar, all the hangars. Even if you're just going to a hangar that you're landing at a space station, the freight elevator there will work and tie. Especially like the ones with the cargo decks. You know, that's where the cargo goes. If you land at a hangar to pick up cargo, it's going to get moved through some sort of Willy Wonka elevator from that external thing that you can see and into your hangar via freight elevator and then into your ship. Yeah, Genentonic. Yep. Nope. It is an impossible task, and '07 to Jake and the rest of the community team. Ulf. I'm terrible with names for at least trying. Yeah. Um, it's certainly better than nothing, in my opinion. And oh yeah, we're back where we were. Okay. Yeah,
We were
persistent
at
hangers.
Link's quantum travel experience.
Yeah. So this is the big one that I wanted to point out. Quantum travel experience, but also the quantum simulation. Full
Wow,
time.
that bar's thick. Actually, if you open it up, it's just full work all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No breaks.
Yeah.
Bleeds fuel.
Gin and Tonic, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Obviously, we have chatted over on Paul's stream numerous times. So thanks for coming and being a part of this. But yeah,
politically correct.
This is the one that I was when I saw that hey, they're continuing this work. It's good. This is something. It's just like with persistent streaming and server meshing that Sprint will go on into perpetuity as they continue to iterate it and go on to dynamic server meshing and what have you. The quantum simulation isn't going to be done for a long time, but it will be in game a lot sooner than we think.
Mr. Tony Zervik as much as I do, which is very little compared to actually knowing a person, this will never be done. This will never be done.
Yeah. But it'll be in game and functioning, and they'll be adding more and more things to it as time goes on. But
he's trying to simulate existence itself. So
but the good thing is it's prioritized. They've got 5 engineering devs working on it. And Nazeris, you remember when we did the Bounty Hunter V2 and the more recent podcast, now that iCache is largely done, we shifted some resources.
No, don't say its name.
It was the biggest oof moment, but PES is functioning.
It hurts every time I hear the name now.
But PES is functioning in the PU, and and the bulk of the work is done in order to get it functioning and get it into the main dev branch and get it into our hands. And so now they actually are shifting engineering resources to work on the quantum simulation. So that's a very heartening thing for me to see. Player interaction experience tier 0 and tier 2. Tier 0, USPU gameplay feature team. Again, there they are. Hooray. And the last bit is just really the unannounced vehicles. We can see which ones they're working on and what work is actually being done. A lot of concept art being done, ships being pushed through concept, but really only one unannounced one unannounced vehicle in production. So we don't know if some of these concepts will be going into production as soon as they finish their concept phase, but I think to me, having only one unannounced vehicle in production is a good thing, because we can see which announced vehicles are in production, and they are working on the backlog. And it may not be the big ship backlog, but they are working on the backlog, the ships in there. Oh, and lastly, EU-PU gameplay feature team working on vehicle tractor beams. Yeah, it goes all the way out
No, they don't
into
work on tractor
May.
beams.
But yes, soon
Tractor beams
soon
are a lie.
TM.
Obviously, the Star Citizen never gets anything done. They're always in development. Nothing ever comes out for this game, and it's a dead game, and you scam, and you know.
The question is, Nazeris, am I going to get to do another sit rep on vehicle tractor beams before they release?
It's like your home is vehicle tractor.
It's my passion project. I can't wait to just be able to yeet things all over the place with my ship.
Slow development here. Oh gosh, I need to like hashtag every video with slow development here.
Yeah. North End, it's the vehicle tractor beams for all the ships. So not just the
Hull
SRV.
C, was
The
Caterpillar.
Taurus, the Cutlass
Taurus.
is
Oh my, the Taurus.
it's the
Like-
315P, right? That has one on the nose. Origin 315P.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
The Raft.
Yeah. SRV, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch.
I picked up an SRV because
The
I'm
Galaxy?
an Argo fan.
I'm building the
the
Argo.
Spirit
Argo fan.
C1, right? That's the cargo one. C1. Yeah.
Yeah, cargo C. Yeah.
Yep.
C2.
Taurus. Yep. Caterpillar.
Does the C2 have an embedded tractor beam? I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm not a Crusader person, so I don't. I'm not going to speak on that because I can't. I don't follow the Crusader ships that much. The Galaxy does have tractor beams. They are not it has the one to pull the ore pods up, but then there's also the tractor beams on rails in the cargo module in order for moving containers, as well as like the containers will go onto the lift when you're landed, and then the tractor beams on the rails will move over to the lift, pick up the containers, and then move them over to the cargo grid. North End, I think the tractor beams there's multiple sizes, and it's basically just making it so they shouldn't have to do anything for the other ships. As long as other than if for some reason during production they didn't add the hard point onto the ship. Some of the ships don't have the MFDs, where because you will operate the tractor beam remotely via an MFD, kind of like you do remote turrets. They showed them off in the Hull C update mid last year, when they're talking about that. But yeah, it's basically just like adding another weapon type, but because of the way that tractor beams work and with vehicles and everything, they had to do engineering and physics type work in order to make them work on ships versus just a little handheld. The thing that is curious to me and kind of bothersome though is I can understand and appreciate why there's more work needed to get vehicle tractor beams working, but how come we don't have the two-handed one? What if it's the two-handed one should literally just be the same as the tractor beam attachment on the multi-tool, but make the beam a little bit bigger and you change the properties as far as what it can lift and so on. If there's a reason for it, I would love to know what it is. Blizzard, is there a need for it? No, at this point.
Yes, there is.
Well, I mean, we only have the one SCU containers, but
No, if you blow up a ship, you have a 2 SCU.
Oh yeah, that too.
They're there.
But even though you can do pretty much everything with the small one, I want the big one. I want to, yeah.
Start being an asteroid terrorist.
Yes. Yeah. Except for we have to find an asteroid that's phallic looking. Remember, like from Austin Powers with the I want to do that. So the Hurstons are like looking at the radar. Yeah, what the hell is that? It looks like a giant. And then it comes into Lorville and blows it all up.
People live there, right?
It's sacrifices must be made. And Walker
God,
300,
sounds
I would like to
dangerous.
know why you can't do that too. I want grappling hooks, and I really want to have ships with like instead of a tractor beam, I want to put on a hoist or something like that, so I can lower people down or pick a load back, pick a load up or something like that.
I feel like
Something
the word
for
grappling hook
SAR
was said in the past year.
could have been. I don't know.
I feel like it was.
But that is it for the roadmap roundup, and really it was more just the shiny tracker reports. So if you're still with us, we have 17 18 people hanging out, so everybody, thank you for joining us, thank you for hanging out. And at this point we are going to transition to the second part of the podcast, where Nazeris and I are going to go through the letter for the chairman and just talk about what our old buddy Chris Roberts has to say. The good thing is this one isn't as meaty as the one earlier in the year, but it does have some really good information and some good updates and things where I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that. That's cool. So yeah, it's a juicy letter, but thankfully it's like a medium versus a extra large, the 7-Eleven giant cup of soda. I'll have a liter of cola. Let's see. So what?
Oh, there was art done for an ArcLight version. But it's a tractor beam arc light laser pistol attachment for the Astro Arena thing that never happened. Astro Ball, was it Centiball? Apparently, 7 years ago. All right. Yes. Letter from the chairman. All right.
Gin and tonic. I'm not aware of any new drama from this letter. If there is, I may just not be plugged in enough, the last week or two since it came out to.
I don't know
notice.
of any either, but I tend to.
The only thing I can think of is
happens.
like the people saying, "Oh, well, CR is saying, Q4 for server meshing and Pyro, which means Pyro 2024." People seem to forget that
assumptions, like
that Q4 starts in October. What else is in October, folks?
I know, right? Server meshing.
What did they just announce?
Yeah, I know, right?
What did Sandy Roberts just talk to us about for October?
It's also referenced in this letter.
Yeah. It's like, if you can't put 2 and 2 together, what they're working on, and if you don't think that they haven't adjusted their expectations from the previous
I think I've
letter.
said this for the past 4 episodes of this, and on the last my brain. Captain's Table is Chris likes the show. If he can show up and be on stage at CitizenCon, said, "There's 4-0, enjoy," like he did for this last big patch that we got. Like, that's what he's going to do.
Oops.
It's what he does. So they absolutely love showing up to CitizenCon saying, "Hey, we just dropped a new patch," which absolutely screws over everyone who goes to CitizenCon, but is the giant amazing thing for everyone who doesn't. So, that's why a lot of people didn't go. A lot of community content creators didn't go to last in-person CitizenCon, because they knew they were doing a lot of stuff or like they're releasing a giant patch at CitizenCon, so they need to be home to do all their content. So, they really want to get 4.0 out for CitizenCon. It's if you don't know that, you have not been paying attention the last 10 plus. Where are we at now? Yeah, 10 plus years. Because October would have been 10 years.
And on that, we'll get back to that. We'll get to that when we get to that part in the letter, because there was a post relevant to that I just opened up. You can see it in the tab here, and I'll share that with you guys. So Nazeris, why don't we just we'll alternate paragraphs, that way we don't get dehydrated. Does that sound good?
I think I finished like a lot of Warzone. Yes, that sounds good.
Since you did the Roadmap Roundup, I will start with the first paragraph. Letter from the chairman, 12/30/2022 at 12:57 a.m. Hello, everyone. As we dun dun dun. As we close out 2022 and head into 2023, should I talk with my hands so you guys can makes it more believable? I wanted to take the time to thank everyone for being such an amazing, enthusiastic, and supportive community. The not-so-secret sauce of Cloud Imperium's ability to have the time and resources to build a universe of the detail, scale, and scope of Star Citizen is the community's... Okay. If you haven't read this yet, bear with me, but I could not keep a straight face reading this sentence, and I had to read it multiple times in order to be like, wait a minute, did he really just write it that way? Is this an English... a Brit thing that I don't understand?
No, I looked it up, and there's the only thing that showed up in the entire search result.
Okay.
It's not. It's what it sounds like.
Okay, so the not-so-secret sauce of Cloud Imperium's ability to have the time and resources to build a universe of the detail, scale, and scope of Star Citizen is the community's full-throated embrace of the ultimate goal of a fully connected and simulated science fiction universe that allows players to engage in first-person gameplay and adventures almost without boundaries. Full-throated embrace. Okay, Gin and Tonic, why is that not the drama?
And has Kotaku made a story yet?
Like, how are people not latching on to the fact that CR
I thought that was gonna be just
that we are giving
biggest thing.
A full-throated embrace.
I love this game, but I'm sorry I missed that. Did you?
Gin and Tonic, CR just said that we give a full-throated embrace of the ultimate goal of Star Citizen. Yeah. So I'm sorry. There's no other way that I could take that. I know it's not just my marine brain, going into the gutter. Yeah. But yeah, totally outrageous. It's like, God, did no one proofread this? And if they did proofread it, how innocent are they? Oh man, I'm sorry. Okay.
Or was it one of the sentences Chris said, no, that's staying?
Yeah.
Like, it's... I thought of like 3 different words you could have used.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You could have just said, full embrace, but full-throated. Did he type this on his phone and it auto-corrected or something?
If that was true, it would have been fixed by now.
Well, and so this is how I can tell that all the trolls and the naysayers and such don't actually read these things. They just get the Cliff Notes versions from their favorite content creator who doesn't, who just gives you the abbreviated version, because otherwise this quote would just get blown absolutely out of, I mean, we're mocking it. If we're mocking it, how is everybody else not absolutely losing their shit about it? How is this not the drama? But yeah, I digress. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, yeah, playing 4.0 sounds like it'll be quite the experience. Yeah, I'm getting a sore throat thinking about it. Anyway, There's no other way Star Citizen could be built except for the community-driven funding model. The investment both in time and money is just too expensive for a normal game publisher, especially a public one beholden to quarterly earnings reports and shareholders. Next paragraph, Nazeris, please. Nazeris.
He didn't. Okay, even Newerfire didn't pick it up. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Attention to
He
detail,
just
folks.
like
That's what we
glossed
do.
over it. He even has the like section up on the screen as he's summarizing it.
Mhm.
Nothing. Oh, okay.
It's because he's being paid by CAG. That's how you guys know that Nazeris and I are authentic.
This was an official post by CAG. Everyone who touches
got
this
paid
thing
to
was
ignore
paid. No, that's not how anything works. Like, Turbulent was paid to post it. Like, the community team was paid to proofread it. Okay. All right. The little paragraph above the picture, right? Right. That's where we are.
This one, second one.
All right. A great example of our ability to take the long-term view and invest in research and development that most projects don't have the time or ambition for is persistent energy streaming, or PES, which creates true lasting persistence. Lost my place for the Star Citizen universe. If you leave some equipment in a remote cave, shoot down a bounty over Daymar, manage to feud off some pirates around Yila, the result of your actions will persist. Items, debris, ships, and even dead bodies all will stay where they were left and still be there even if you log off and return a few weeks later. Assuming other players haven't taken or cleaned up the result of your adventures. Dead bodies, yes. I mean that's just telling you what persistent energy streaming does. Like it's like actually there was I think it was posted actually by the Star Citizen Shorts channel, which just pulls like clips from everyone and posts them on YouTube. I don't know if that's like allowed, but I watch it anyway because they pull best clips from everyone. So I forget who. I think it was Ronnie who did it. Croncy that I think I get that wrong, but anyway, somebody was hunting an 890 and then died on the surface of Daymar, and then Zero State showed up later in the day and found the scene that had been set, the dead 890, the abandoned reclaimer, and just other vehicle bits all around. Just like he stumbled on a story that he didn't know existed, that didn't exist at the beginning of the day.
That's so awesome.
Like the magic of PES right there. It was pretty amazing. So, and also, this is the only game that I know of that has real litter in it. If you've been to ArtCorp in 318, you know what I mean. It's real litter, guys.
Yeah. And I don't know of any other game that, I mean, there's a lot of games that have limited persistence. No one is even attempting persistence on this scale. Not even close. And here we are. It's in the PU. PU is buggy as shit right now, but it's in there and it's working.
Like, you can say that no other game has the technology, but some games have some of the technology. You can say no other games are as big as, but No Man's Sky always beats you on every front when you talk about scale.
Yeah.
But no one has the detail at the scale. Nobody's even trying. Nobody's even thought about trying, especially if there's a publisher.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's been, like, let's go for the furthest person that's probably even Derek Smart. He has probably thought up this scale. But the ability to actually put that into action stemmed from Chris Roberts being who he is. Where it is now has transcended that beginning. However, we are here at this scale, at this detail. No Man's Sky only supports, 32 people per... I didn't even know I supported that many. I thought it was only, like, parties. Like, 4 or 5 people, 8 people parties. I had no idea, like, 32 people could actually multiplayer together.
Yeah. let's see. So I'll read these next two and
All right.
that one little sentence right there, and then you'll pick up at the community's contribution part.
I'll
To
pick up
do
at the
this
butt.
for a universe as big and detailed as Star Citizen, to have this apply to everything, not just player-owned items, for a MMO with millions of players is a major technical accomplishment. I am not aware of any other large-scale MMO that has tried to deliver this level of persistence because there isn't one. That's the thing, and people do not appreciate the technical marvel that has occurred. And yeah, it took a long time, but that's what research and development is, folks.
Yep. And
If you,
I went
uh,
through this in a video or something. Something I posted a couple days ago, and someone responded, the only thing that comes close, and I don't have their exact words, but basically the only game that he could think of is Death Stranding. And that's not multiplayer, but it does have player built persistence.
mhm.
So if you build a bridge, it persists on everyone else's server. Well, your whatever party regional, it has weird connections. But basically, your building persists for other people to find and to use. So
um,
that's like the closest thing.
yeah. PES is the headline feature of Star Citizen Alpha 318, and while we didn't manage to release to live before the end of the year, before the end of 2022, it is currently in Wave 1 of PTU, Public Test Universe, the testbed, wherein we harden patches with the community's help before we deem the patch stable enough for live release. And there are already lots of community videos and posts about the emergent gameplay that is enabled by PES, especially when combined with some other 318 features such as salvage and soft death, where the ship doesn't blow up into pieces but instead becomes disabled, allowing players to survive a once fatal event and attackers to board and potentially loot the disabled ship.
I want
PES
them to turn. Sorry, Scrat.
oh, PES is an example of how all your support has enabled Star Citizen to expand its boundaries and possibilities.
I want them to turn soft death up to 100. I think it'd be a much more fun experience if you could, if even the 30% was no, you have to do something. Like give the hard death to the single seats because that's probably dogfighting,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to have to blow up the ship and then blow up the person with the ship guns. So sure, single seat fighters they can stay hard death, but anything that has an interior, 100% soft death. I would love that.
Yeah,
One, it would mean that I get to have my final stand, and I know I can have my like.
I I
Let's say
think
pirates like
I think it was
attack.
a Zero State video where they disabled a hammerhead. I think it was in atmosphere of a moon, so the gravity was light. And
Mm-hmm.
then it just slowly crashed to the ground and stayed intact, but had all the damage states and everything, and they were able to board it and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like, you know, um, I think
It's great.
the chance. I think 30% is a high chance, is a too high of a chance that a ship can go boom still. I think it should be a lot lower. But I guess you could maybe make it scale based off the size. Like an 890 should have a very low probability of having, catastrophic boom.
Yeah.
Um, but a cutlass, would be considerably higher. But I still think 30% is, but eventually that it's like this is just temporary. It'll also it'll be much more dynamic in the future. What weapon, where you hit it, blah blah blah. Back to you
True
for
says,
oh
yeah, True says something that isn't being talked about enough is how much 318 has fixed elevators, rotating gears in 318. I forgot though. I have not been to ArcCorp since they stopped moving. I think, and I'm so glad they're moving again. So yes, I haven't noticed any fixing of elevators. Anyway, but the community's contributions goes much further than funding Star Citizen's development, as contributing ideas, giving feedback, and testing the various updates release are all part of the symbiotic relationship between Cloud Imperium Games and the Star Citizen community. There are plenty of features and content that I and the development team dream up, but there are equally many things that come from you, the community. The development of Star Citizen is a fusion of the development team and the community playing it. Ideas are passed back and forth, made better, released, tested, and iterated on. Some of the recent racetracks that debuted in 372 and now 318 are a result of the community finding interesting areas to race around, which in turn inspired developers to flesh them out and start to add time trial functionality to the ship HUDs. This is just one example. There are too many others to list in detail, as the same dynamic happens with everything in Star Citizen. Your actions in the universe inspired the Star Citizen team to improve and push the boundaries even further. I assume I'm supposed to get the little one as well.
Yep.
And what is more exciting is that this community grows larger every year. I can't read. More and more people discover Star Citizen through their friends, online videos, and people streaming their gameplay. People are intrigued and jump into the verse. I can't finish sentences properly.
In my letter from the chairman in May of this year, I mentioned just how strongly we started 2022 in terms of new players joining the verse. Yeah, those numbers were really impressive. This trend has continued through the rest of the year, fueled by Invictus launch week, and then continued with the release of Alpha 317.2, which really should have been numbered as a full patch due to the number of features, content, and optimizations we put in it, knowing that Alpha 318 was going to take extra time due to the complexity of PES. The biggest headline of 317.2 was the increase in server capacity from 50 players to over 100 players, which was enabled by the ongoing multi-threading and optimization work the engine and gameplay teams have been working on in the background. Somebody said today, like, the going to 100 players wasn't a big deal because it was an accident. Like, they didn't mean to.
What?
They weren't trying to do
What
it.
do you mean it was an accident? They
I was
literally
like,
tested for like several weeks.
I was like, an accident? You're kidding. How would it be an accident? And he's like, they didn't do anything. I was like, he literally just talked about it. What they were doing, the optimization and multi-threading that allowed for it to be efficient enough that they could do that. Like, before 317, that wasn't possible. It wasn't more efficient for them to run it that way. And with the optimization they did, yeah, it was just, I was absolutely blown away because I was like, again,
I
tell me you don't read.
just logical fallacies people just jump into and cuddle inside to make these wild accusations about this game.
Yeah, we don't know what we did, but suddenly we're able to, have higher player counts. No, they know exactly what they did.
Whoops! I hit 100 instead of 50. I guess we have 100 player servers.
They didn't realize that the work that they were doing might work out that way, but they still were doing the work in order to optimize it, in order to increase player counts. And they just didn't realize that they were going to be able to do it so soon because the things equaled out. It was more efficient to have 100 players on one server than 2 servers, with 50 players. The performance is equal. So it's like, okay, sweet. Well, let's just make it happen now instead of waiting.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I was just like, what?
It's like, I don't know if I can talk to you anymore.
Yeah. And I responded with the link to this and the quote, and the response was whatever. So yeah. This enabled a more active and busier PU for players and allowed for some truly spectacular player-driven events like 100 plus person fleet battles or ship meets. And so something that I wanted to put into context, because people have been saying that, okay, like, I got into it with Burks about this. He's like, there's no reason we can't have, these larger ships. We've got 100 player counts, 100 player server counts. Like, just because you can have 100 players on a server doesn't mean that the server will support 100 players running around in their large, ships and stuff, soloing this and that. And the other thing is the graphics engine can't support that many ships running around because we don't have ship interior culling. So again, Burks, I'm sorry, but you're doing what Morph does, and you don't follow the development that close because you spend a lot of time playing the game. You know how to play the game, but you don't understand all these other things because these were hidden in dev posts when people ask questions and they get them answered. And this is the information that Nazeris and I go hunting for.
Also, another point on top of that, try and get, let's just take a javelin. Or even an Idris. Heck, a Polaris. Well, Polaris is actually supposed to be efficient. Idris. We'll go Idris then. Try get an Idris amount of people, a full Idris amount of people on a ship without the engineering gameplay, without the maintenance gameplay, without everything that's not turreting, and spend an hour in game, I bet you somebody's gonna get shot of boredom.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna get bored. Somebody's gonna shoot one of your crewmates.
If you
There's
remember,
nothing to do.
I think it was back during Invictus launch week, they showed that clip of a bunch of Idrises and NPC Idrises and NPC Javelins just absolutely duking it out, having a giant battle royale. And Jared just basically, got almost like teary eyed with happiness at seeing it. And people were like, see, how come we can't have that in game?
It has no interior.
Because it has no interior. They specially built those ships and took out the interior because otherwise it would crash the game if the interior was there. That's why like the game runs so slow if you're anywhere near the Javelin tour, because it has an interior, and even without an interior, the Bengal, because it's so huge, even on the low res version that they put in the game, that's not like, it's not meant to look like that. It's supposed to be meant to be higher detail, but they had to downscale it in order to get it in the game so that way it wouldn't crash the engine because Gen 12 and the Vulkan API weren't in. So yeah, this is why we need dynamic server meshing, and this is why we need the engine optimizations, Gen 12, Vulkan, all that stuff. Because
we're close.
Those are the things that allow for server meshing allows for. Ray's Guide has the best way of describing it, and I will share his videos until he dies. But Ray's
we'll
Guide
after that too.
yeah, it 07 to not dead Ray, but he puts it in the best way possible, that server meshing allows for absolute dispersion of players because you can have more servers to cover all those areas because they're not getting streamed out because a player is there. And Gen 12 and the Vulkan API allow for absolute concentration because then you can have a ton of players being rendered with all their ships and whatever else, and not just absolutely bog down the frame rates. And those are the two things that are the major effectors of the player count in the game. And we just got the first version of Gen 12, and they're already working on the Vulkan API and optimizing Gen 12, and they're working on server meshing. So there you go. But you can't put the cart before the horse. And that's the issue, is you have all these people putting the cart before the horse because they don't read. And these things have been explained to us time and again. But
horses are really bad at pushing heavy things.
Yeah. Horses and Star Citizen, space horses. Where's my unicorn from the Corel system, CIG? Yeah.
There's gotta be a one sentence we should put in a unicorn somewhere in somebody's computer in some office. There's gotta be.
I will finish this one, and you can take the next grouping.
All right.
In November, we released Alpha 3.17.4 just in time for the 2952 edition of IAE, which debuted 2 new flyable ships in the Drake Cutter and Corsair, as well as the RSI Galaxy, a large modular multi-role ship that has been added to the ship production pipeline. Probably shouldn't have said it like that because it's not in production, but 6 1/2 dozen.
Isn't it though?
Nope, just concept.
Well, yeah, but it might be on the docket to be put into full production in this year.
Yeah,
so
it could be, but
call
it's not
in production.
Currently in production. So
it's
if I was to write things,
it's flagged
I would
as
not
to be scheduled this year.
Yeah, I would not give anybody any ammo, but that's just me. If I was the community team member who reviews this before sending it out to the community, because I get how how certain aspects of the community react to certain things, this is something I would be like, let's reword this.
I mean, if it's flagged for getting Gray Box done this year, then I would have no problem with that sentence.
But we don't know that. If they said that, that the Galaxy was going to be,
right. If it's not, that's what that sentence says. If it's not that, then bad on him. But
yeah, could be.
I assume it is.
Yeah,
because of that sentence. So somebody was asking me on the pre-show, show me where the Galaxy is in production. That one.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I hope so. I hope that the Polaris going into production means that we will see the Galaxy going into production, 6 months after that. Where, okay, the these artists are getting done with this aspect of the Polaris, and now they can move on to this aspect of the galaxy, while these other
Or they do
disciplines are
what Ray talked about.
yeah,
They have a
well,
white box team, a gray box team, and a final art team.
yeah.
So the gray box team does the Polaris, moves on
Mhm.
to the galaxy, and the final art team comes in and finishes off the Polaris, then moves on to the galaxy when that comes out of.
That's basically how it works. It's just not labeled that way. Like,
Well, no, well,
'cause the that
some of the artists traditionally
like
would
with
bring it from gray box to final.
that's how they talked about this with the Banu Merchantman. How people were like, "There's 19 people working on it." What's going it back when it was like showed off in May or June, during Alien Week, and it says the video said there's only 2 artists working on it right now, and they're like, people got all up in arms because the progress tracker said 19 people working on it, and that's when there was a post about it, and I'm not going to go find it, but there was a post about it, and that said what Nazeris and I have been saying for a very long time, that said, um, 19 people are the people that are scheduled to work on it for at any point during that sprint. It doesn't mean that all 19 people are working on it from beginning to end. And the fact that that had to be explained to people blew my mind. But it's the same thing. The artists that were doing the exterior gray box on the exterior gray box on the Banu Merchantman, once they're done with the exterior gray box on the Banu Merchantman, they go on and work on something else on another ship. Usually gray box work, but it's they just don't call it, and they aren't listed as that. But that's the way that's what John Crew's entire job is in order to know what talents he has available from different people, in order to schedule them to do gray box, to do final art, Lot Zero, the all that sort of stuff,
And to not make the endeavor.
and to not make the endeavor forever and ever and ever, amen. But yeah, so yeah,
like after they build the galaxy, he loses ground on that argument though, because like his half of his statement for not doing the endeavor was, we don't know how modularity is going to work. When the galaxy is done, that half the statement just is gone. After that, they have it's a ship based on nothing almost. It's a framework, and frameworks are hard. So he can die on that hill. I understand that one.
yep.
But he loses some ground for the modularity.
We also added and this was news to me. I hadn't heard this, and if it was announced somewhere else, I don't know how I missed it. But we also added servers in Hong Kong for our exploding player base in Asia Pacific. All of this, combined with the return of Jumptown and our other dynamic events like Xenothreat and Ninetales Lockdown, kept the verse more engaged and active than any year previously. So they added servers in Hong Kong. I don't know if they're active and working now. Are they going to make it so that way when you log on, you can choose between US, EU, Oz, and
Asia?
HK or whatever they end up calling it? Asia? I mean, because
it'd be US.
It's not on there now.
Australia.
So I'm guessing it's
Asia.
not spun up yet, but they are working on it. I'm guessing that's how it's going to
be. They announced it when the Star Citizen in Shanghai and China were going on.
Oh, really? I must completely missed it. I remember that article when Aaron Roberts went to Korea and was talking with that one province, which to me, that signals that they're looking at building another studio, not just adding servers there.
Imagine an Asian studio with Star Citizen.
Yeah. Well, so
good.
It was a government organization for that sort of province area, and their whole job for that government organization is to bring tech companies in to give jobs to their people in the tech and software development sector. And so basically, it's like, okay, that was to me, fact finding and working on what sort of deal can we work out in order to put together, build another studio here, um, because they're
Oh.
that if you think about it, they are having trouble hiring people. They have all those open jobs, and it's not because CIG doesn't pay well or anything like that. CIG is a great employer. It's because
As
there
we
are only so many people that do this kind of work, and just like every other sector, the game development sector took a huge employment hit over the last couple of years of people like, you know what, I'm done working,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do something
As
else.
we learned during the Texas snowstorm, CIG actually has some pretty nice benefits.
Yeah.
They'll even tell you, "We'll put your work in. You stay home and be safe." Like there were some project leads that said, "No, no, no. You're getting paid to stay at home and be safe." Like they didn't. They said, "Do not work. Just be safe." And they said, "We'll still pay you for it." Amazing company. Like I've heard no what are they called? Verifiable bad things about CIG
Hmm.
as far as employee benefits and work conditions go.
Yeah. um
So I want to know about the agent. CIG. I don't know. I'm gonna be looking this up now.
yeah, I did a bunch of reading on that organization. I was like, when that came out, because I was like, oh, that's interesting, because like, let's see, Northern Trooper said are willing to move to work. You can only hire so many people in um Austin and Montreal and Manchester, Frankfurt, blah blah blah. You're always going to have more competition in those areas, and basically you have to tap labor markets in order to get the resources that you need, because CIG has the money. They are trying to spend the money. They're trying to hire more people, and if they can't hire them in the areas that they already are, it makes sense to build another studio, especially if a government organization that is trying to bring jobs into their area will cut you a deal, on in some way, shape, or form in order to make it fiscally viable for you to do so. That's part of the reason they built that giant, or they moved into that giant new Manchester office, is because the UK government in whatever province that is gave them a big old sweetheart deal to do it because they wanted the jobs there. So back to you, Nazareth, for another year of record breaking, or another record breaking year of growth. Blah.
All right. Yeah, and just like if you're Nintendo, PlayStation, like these are all companies like there's a lot of talent in Asian countries. It's I would like especially because we have Hong Kong in the game, not in the game, but when we get to Earth it will be. All right. Another record-breaking year of growth. While our most passionate players test 318 or the people paid and plus more most passionate anyway, and our developers take a well-deserved break, I wanted to share with you some truly momentous stats from this year that illustrate Star Citizen had its best year yet in your face, and crossed some historic milestones that demonstrate this game we all love is finally breaking into the larger gaming consciousness with a success that is greater and faster than we anticipated. Yes, they're reaching their like post 1.0 stuff before they wanted to. Like there there's a reason that a lot of the new player stuff is like, no, we need to get this done yesterday. It's because they're getting bigger faster than they thought. They thought, oh, we'll just like develop this in the background and then we'll have like a big thing when we come out and become the 1.0. Yeah, that's not happening. It's taking longer, and their players are like, oh, this is actually a really cool game, even in its current state. So, new player experience needed. This year, over 1 million new players logged into Star Citizen and played our game, and they did so for more than 36 million hours, or 46 million hours. So that's 46 hours per person. And that's great. That's 46 hours is more than most AAA games have in their entire. That's insane. Our daily active users (DAU) here, i.e., unique players logged in each day, has grown 50% over last year, and is double what it was at the end of 2019. This year, we've also averaged, or 2022, we're also averaging over 240,000 monthly active users, which is 33% larger than our monthly active users from last year, with highs of over 400,000 during May, with this year's Invictus launch week. This year is going to be insane. All right, so back to you for the next one. If you're there.
Yep.
Okay. I think the river, the razor over the river is probably one of the most famous images this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know boards used it a lot for thumbnails. I think I've seen it in third-party publications as well, like stories about it. Like, it's just a really famous picture. It's just so good. It's just a really good picture. I need to have a razor permanently in my hanger. I really do.
Yeah, I want to find that river because it doesn't look like the one that I found.
That's the
before.
original.
Is it? It looks pretty.
Yeah, that's the original river. That was okay. That was the pre-release image. That was, this is a engineer made this river. Here, look at it. So it might not have looked the exact same when we got to it in game.
Let's see. Those of you who follow our funding tracker doubtless know that we had already eclipsed all last year's revenues by mid-November, and we'll have our first 100 million year ever, and by a fair margin. You can also read a more in-depth report of our 2021 financials here. But as great as 2021 was, which was remarkable for growing beyond the COVID bolstered revenues of 2020, we managed to grow 30% beyond 2021, which is just nuts.
Now, it took me a second to actually read that properly, because he was talking about by mid-November they crossed 100 million raised, but then he referenced the 2021 report, financial report. Those are two separate things. The financial report is from a year ago. The 100 million is from last year. We won't get the financials that include the 100 million plus till the end of this year, because tax reasons. They're not allowed, nor do they have the time, nor the actual numbers to give you till the year's over. Because for a company this size and this complex, it takes a little bit to get your taxes in order. Yeah. So the 2021 thing was for a year ago's financial report.
Let's see. Where's... Oh, here we go. Pull that up because I wanted to pull... Where's the chart?
Which one?
It was the one that has the bar chart.
Do you have the CCU game somewhere?
Isn't
that has
there
them pretty easily?
The crowdfunding?
It's the same chart.
Why don't you click?
If you just go to the CCUgame.app, pretty easy to find.
In the column to the... I'm looking at a thing, the old thing, and I don't want to let me click on that. Here, can you drop me the link?
Just did.
In Discord? Ah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. I have to sign in.
Do you?
There we go. Nope, there we go. Okay. This was the part that I didn't realize, that we had eclipsed 2021 by so much. That's just nuts.
IAE was, and to use everyone's favorite term, unprecedented.
Well, Invictus launch week, right?
Invictus was earlier.
Yeah, the orange.
Yeah.
The Invictus launch week was, I mean, all the months were bigger, but look, that's just insane. IAE was pretty close to similar, but
32. Well, 20. There was 2 million more. So yeah, you're right. That was actually Pretty
Yeah,
similar.
I mean it's an increase, but like that's
21 to 13 last year. Was this April had 8 million, where last year it had 3 million. Like every single one was bigger
Mhm.
by at least a million.
Yeah.
Ooh,
All total, that's
January was
$27 million
7 over
more.
4. Yeah. January was 7 over 4 million.
That's just wild.
Can I have some of those millions?
Yeah. But $27 million more than they made the year before. Like that's, a 30% in, let's see, what do you say? A 30% increase is just craziness. Um, Anyway, continuing on. Where does all that revenue go? Right back into development, as we've hired more than ever before and continue to build out our Squadron 42 and Persistent Universe teams. It's no secret that our two games and our technology are among the most complex and complicated endeavors in the gaming and even tech industry. We're doing things with our engine that are truly groundbreaking, and it takes talent and time to achieve the ambitious goals we've set for ourselves. And so, even as we grow, we invest all that growth back into our teams through hiring and retaining our critical talent. A huge portion of our growing revenue has come exclusively from new players that only joined Star Citizen this year. In fact, this year we witnessed truly explosive growth. Over 800,000 new accounts were created this year to follow or play our project. Our new players this year have almost doubled this. Our new players this year have almost doubled this year compared to last year, with over 500,000 new players joining us during free flies, dynamic events, and throughout 2022. And of those new players this year, over 70% of them stayed around as paying players who purchased starter packs to get access to the Star Citizen Alpha to keep their adventure going in the universe or in the verse.
There is a single or two words in here. No, one word in here that a lot of people got really butthurt over when we saw the new offices.
Over
Okay, in the
that's
last
like a
sentence of the middle
quarter.
one.
That's like a 250,000 additional unique players this year over last. A quarter
So
million more.
in the last sentence of the middle paragraph, it says it takes time. It takes talent and time to achieve the ambitious goals we've set for ourselves. And last sentence. And even so, as we grow, we invest all of that growth back into our teams through hiring and retaining our current talent. Now, just like if anyone's played City Sims, attracting good talent and making them stay in that city takes higher and higher amenities as you go on. If you've attracted the attention of, let's say, the best network engineer ever, getting him into work for a year is great. Asking him to stay, he's going to have some requirements.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the offices are good looking, lavished even. Why Jared was able to ask for a spaceship. Like, retaining is not a cheap endeavor, especially for talent this strong. Tony Zurevec is probably really not a cheap person to pay. He literally designed software for Fortune 500 companies.
Yep.
And he's working on video games. Not cheap. Not cheap at all. Retaining is an expensive thing at this level.
Mm-hmm.
And having them have cushier chairs or a nice window seat is worth it, guys. It's just worth it. And, like, I would imagine, like, if you got to be a person that was as talented as these people are pulling in, you had the same sway. Like, I'd hope you would allow them to have the same thing you would want if you were in the position.
Mm-hmm.
So,
back to you for Bar Citizen World Tour and CitizenCon.
plus, there's actually cool stuff in here. Okay, so Bar Citizen World Tour and CitizenCon. Throughout 2022, members of our team had the opportunity to attend various Bar Citizen events around the globe. We are grateful for the chance to connect with all of you at these events, especially those who are farther from our offices. The past few years during the pandemic have reminded us of the importance and significance of in-person events. And there is nothing quite like the energy and excitement of a bar citizen. Seeing and experiencing your passion and support in person energizes us for the work ahead. We have always been inspired by your creativity and camaraderie at these events, and we believe that they will continue to be a highlight of the community for years to come. For this reason, and many more, I'm happy to share that we plan to continue this initiative in 2023. Our community team is always interested in learning about upcoming events in your area, so be sure to share your events on Spectrum. So, Bar Citizen World Tour is not over yet. They're going to continue to send devs to big enough Bar Citizens. I forget what the threshold is, but I only just heard about it like this month. Apparently, it's like somebody said 20 or something. I don't know what it is, but if the Bar Citizen is big enough, they will send a dev just to go hang out. I think
I'm
it's
hoping
amazing.
that Bar Citizen Salt Lake City can get big enough that they'll send people, and I'll drive down there for that. That's like a 4.5 hour drive for me.
The closest one to me has Montoya in it, so I don't like nothing against him or his views or whatever. I'm an introvert. He's a very loud person.
Yeah, the pictures are cool though. That like all this stuff makes me smile.
All the happy faces.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I want to do if I can get on YouTube, dependent on YouTube. It's go to each CitizenCon around the world and go to the offices. Have my own anti-bar citizen, my CitizenCon tour. Like go 4 years in a row, go to all of them and to all the offices. That'd be amazing. Anyway, where are we at? Last paragraph. And in case you missed it, Sandy Roberts also recently announced that in-person CitizenCon will be returning in 2023 in Los Angeles. We are looking forward to seeing all of you there for a day of celebration of the Star Citizen community, Star Citizen universe with fellow community members. We will share more information as soon as we have it, so stay tuned for more details on this event. So they mentioned, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, that when we got to around end of Q1, they said if we were going to have one, they would already have to be deep in planning. They're already deep in planning for 2023. The CitizenCon. Like, it's... and they're planning on blowing the roof off the last one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and they're planning farther in advance than they have before.
It's going to be good. I hope to be there.
I will be there. If we... Oh, man, that'd be fun if we got to go to CitizenCon. Yeah. Meet and watch CitizenCon together. And, yep. Yeah, in 28, I got to go to 2018. My wife and I went. And, I went to Bar Citizen in Austin the night before with Paul and hung out, and we, had a great time, did shots. I went out and had barbecue and met up with Fast Cart, who has been on Captain's Table many times, along with a few other people from his community. It was a really good time.
I just need to find my designated extrovert, because if you're an introvert, you don't go anywhere without your designated extrovert.
Oh, I'm very extroverted. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I don't have a shy bone in my body.
It needs to be someone that I know already. Like
okay.
It's just an introvert thing. You need to find someone who. So basically, what happens for introverts, and this was the best way it's been explained to me, is introverts look for an extrovert to adopt them, and that's how they make friends. So I need to find one of my adoptee extroverts. I have 2 of them that I know of, and I just need to convince one of them to go to Los Angeles with me. One of them's in state, one of them is in Colorado, so if he says okay, I'll have to fly out to Colorado, then fly. Either way, we have to meet up, and he's in Colorado, and I'll be here. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Super interesting. Either way, I hope to make it, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, the plans are so far to make it.
Yeah. Paul said he's gonna go. I'm gonna go. I think
everyone's planning on going. Like, no one's gonna miss out on the first in 3 years for content reasons.
Yeah, there would have to be some sort of disaster, like World War III or something.
I wonder if Ford's gonna be there.
There's a lot of people I'd really like to meet.
Yeah, I just want to give him a hug. just want to give them like, dude, you've done so much for the community.
I wanna take a shiny head selfie with Board Gamer.
That'd be perfect.
The two
Wait, what you
shiniest
got there?
heads
Oh,
in
nothing.
Star
Just a bunch of
Citizen content
potatoes.
creation. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of space tomato, we're space potato.
Space potatoes. This batch
Yeah.
of potatoes.
Especially because I'm from Boise. Yeah. Oh man, I could change my name. If I ever get
Rebrand
on
everything.
the Launch Sequence podcast, I'm gonna call myself that.
Okay.
Anyway,
Great.
new places to call home. In my last letter, we shared some early imagery of our new Manchester and Frankfurt offices that were previously under construction. I'm happy to report we have now moved into both offices, Frankfurt at the end of August and Manchester in mid October. Having our staff together in the office makes a huge difference to our teamwork. We've struggled at times to hit our goals for 2022, and while we will always achieve incredible things at Cloud Imperium Games, I've personally seen a significant change in pace towards the end of the year, resulting from most of us being in the office. While we were finally able to achieve which we were finally able to achieve once our two new offices in Frankfurt and Manchester were ready to be occupied. That's another reason I'm hopeful for 4.0 is everybody's back in the office now, finally. The huge new offices in downtown Manchester were especially important as we had grown way beyond the capacity of the old Wimslow office during the pandemic, and so could not properly return to office until we had the extra space. Now that our teams have moved back in, we're especially eager to give you all a tour of our new facilities. We plan to do just that in the coming months as we wrap up final touches on the facilities. You can expect a video tour alongside the return of periodic studio tours for those looking to visit us in person, of course with limited capacity when available. Just need a space egg and we can have an omelet. We're also planning on opening our doors for a couple of fun in-house events for our concierge and subscribers. Stay tuned for more information on that in the new year. All right, now I have to convince my wife to go on vacation to the UK.
That's not hard. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the UK. Like, we're American. Like, UK is full of like fun.
Mm-hmm. Why don't
I
you
think
take
the
the
funniest part.
first
think
two
the funniest
paragraphs
part
of
of
this next
that
part? Oh, go ahead.
is that they had grown bigger than their offices during the pandemic,
Mhm.
and they weren't able to go back to the office till they bought more space.
Yeah, Jake was saying that like they like he only goes to work, he goes to the office like 2 or 3 days a week because he has to like office share with people.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And it's a
Well,
huge
now he doesn't
schedule.
have to.
Yeah, and it's he's Jake is in Austin, but it's a
Oh,
huge
okay.
scheduling hassle because and he wasn't I mean like that's the entire company was like that. And it's a huge
Yeah.
scheduling hassle. Like they have to put in extra work just to be able to schedule when it's their turn to use, the office space. So, yeah.
So does that mean that Austin is slated for new offices as well?
I was actually going to ask that cuz I know Austin and Santa Monica like they've outgrown their space too, so
Oh dang.
yeah.
I wonder if LA
And
is going
after
to
making
move to a
20
better area.
yeah, and after a $27 million, you know, $27 million of additional funding over last year,
They
yeah.
got some playroom.
Mhm.
All right. So I'm doing how much here?
Why don't you do the first two paragraphs and I'll do the second two of the Star Citizen Alpha 318.
Okay, cool. Star Citizen Alpha 3.18. Last week, we opened the gates and welcomed Wave 1 testers to check out our latest content and technologies in Star Citizen Alpha 3.18. This upcoming patch release marks a giant technical leap forward on Star Citizen's journey to deliver an uncompromising and near limitless universe that we've all been dreaming of. Far from our typical quarterly patch, this release introduces fundamental changes to our entire backend, bringing all new sets of backend services, granting universal persistence, and even the mass migration of the entire game state into the cloud, which is a tremendous undertaking and accomplishment for our teams. Go teams! Since hitting Wave 1, tens of thousands of you have delved in to experience the long-awaited salvage profession, and an entirely new economic and non-combat career path for the pilots of the verse. The ability to salvage will allow pilots to retrieve valuable materials from target ships and sell them for profit. The new salvage profession is supported through the addition of new technologies and tools, included a complete cargo reflector, giving cargo a physical representation in-game. Alpha 318 also included the launch of the Drake Interplanetary Vulture, a new entry-level flyable salvage ship in the Drake lineup of vessels. Perfect for the pilots beginning their career in salvage, alongside updated functionality to the Reclaimer. Pilots can now finally utilize the behemoth of a ship. It's technically non-combat, but I've seen more people blow up a ship than salvage it than not. I wonder if you can salvage the investigative ships. We have to go and like find the crew that blew up.
That's something that's interesting to me. Like, did they rework those missions so that they spawn with derelicts appropriate for salvaging? Yeah. I haven't had a chance to
Do
look
the
into it and
assets
try.
just reference, or are they new assets?
I always
Like when they update the ship, does it update the asset?
I always assumed that it did, but that's beyond me. Something I'm gonna have to test out.
Yeah, I've not played too much of 318 just because.
Oh, I've barely
for the first
touch it.
For the first couple weeks, you couldn't change your armor. So after you put something on, you couldn't change it, which was not playable. But it's fixed now mostly. You just gotta wait a minute because the back end takes a minute to respond.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So while salvage, new racetracks, new points of interest, and some of the other visually stimulating mechanics will take the spotlight, the largest change to our universe comes from powerful work under the hood with persistent entity streaming. With this new tech, all physical objects moved or placed by players will be dynamically tracked on the server they were moved on and remain in their new locations. PES represents the largest technical update in the game's history and is a critical addition in laying the foundation for future technology and full in-game persistence that will unlock a new level of immersion in the verse. As we move towards making 318 stable enough to release to the live service, I'd like to give a special shout out to everyone who has been testing 318 so far on the public test servers, especially those from our dedicated Evocati group who put many hard hours in when the patch was in its roughest and most frustrating state. Thanks to your efforts, we have been able to iterate in real time and implement improvements and fixes quicker than ever. Another reason I'm hopeful for 4.0 in Q4. And let's see. I'll continue with these first bits here.
Okay.
This coming looking forward, the road to Alpha 4.0. This coming year is going to be a huge one for Star Citizen, possibly its biggest one to date. The first order of business is to continue to stabilize Alpha 318 so we can release to the live servers in January, once the team is back from their well-earned holiday break. Then we will continue to harden PES, improving aspects and adding some additional quality of life features, including the ability to choose which PES shard you would like to join. The current game server PES shard matchmaking tries to match you to the last PES shard you were in when you log back in, or to recover from a crash. But if that shard is full, it places you in a different one. In the short term, before server meshing makes this not so necessary, we also want to give players the choice to wait in a queue for their preferred shard if it is full. The next step will be to separate the replication layer, the in-memory cache that remembers all dynamic objects from a dynamic object state from the game server, and have scalable replication layer workers that communicate the state changes between the various game clients, servers, and replication layer. So I know some people are like, wait a minute, I thought the replication layer being off of the game server and being a backend service was part of PES. It is part of PES. The reason it's still on the game server is because each server is a shard. Each server, is its own shard, and until you won't have multiple. You don't need to have the replication layer off the server if the server doesn't have to communicate stuff via the replication layer to anyone but the people on the server, if that makes sense. So the reason that the replication layer has to be off the server for server meshing is because the replication layer will scale just like the servers that are simulating the game, in order to say, okay, we have this many people logged in, there's this many entities and stuff like that. We need more. We need to expand the replication layer in order to transmit the entity state information back and forth between the player clients, the servers, and the entity graph. And so it'll, the entity state information will go from client to replication layer to server. And it'll go from server to replication layer to client. And when those things are streamed off the server,
Did you hit your mute button? I can't hear you at all.
I accidentally bumped the mute button on my
Aha! Okay.
I was doing a Chris Roberts, and I touched the mic.
Yeah, no, I do it all the time, except I don't have a mute button on mine very unpurposely.
Yeah. But yeah, the reason the replication layer is still on the server is because it isn't necessary to move it off the server yet. But the replication layer, the tech to make that work is done. They got it done. They just left it on the server in order to, because it's just more efficient when we still have single servers like this.
And also, like, if it's already a giant leap forward now, why do more work when you can't utilize that work? Have them efficient with their time.
Yep.
And now that we need it for, let's say, 319, 320, whatever it ends up being, now they can go back and do it after they've finalized the live version of 318. So imagine like 318 having to be Q2, but we have the remote replication later. Or just get it to live, then work on the remote replication layer. It's just better scheduling. All right, so it was my turn.
Yeah. This is very important for server meshing part.
Okay. This is very important for server meshing, as universe states need to be fully decoupled from server states. No.
Yep.
Hold on, no. Roach. Okay. Sorry, there's a bug on my desk. As the universe state needs to be fully decoupled from the server state. It will also make Star Citizen much more crash resilient. On the client side, as server crash will no longer take down the replication layer meaning that clients can stay connected while the new server or a new server takes over where the last one left off. This completely removes 30k on the server side. Gone. Just gone. 30Ks can also happen client side though, but this removes the 30k on the server end. It will also have the added benefit of having the view every client has on the universe around it be a little more fluid, with less lag, as the client's update and refresh of object state will no longer be tied to the tick rate of the game server. This means players will see state changes from other remote clients and game servers as they happen at rates that are at the various clients and servers push them. Technical talk is not my strong suit. Once this happens, we'll be able to have multiple game servers communicate with the replication layer, much like multiple game clients communicate right now with the replication layer, allowing Star Citizen to have multiple servers simulating the universe state, which we call server meshing. I like how he just broke it down that far. Just like, yeah. Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, like if you haven't been using the unofficial roadmap to server meshing, you know, or really paid attention to the server meshing update videos, you didn't really understand it. But he basically just summarized it in a paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just to call like, hey, we just need to make this remote. The text's already done, so we just gotta like put in the thing to make it remote, and then we're there. Like, so why is 4.0
Hmm.
taking so long? Like, yeah, it's gonna be a year. It's gonna be like the fact that it is so close and they're giving so much time to it. I imagine by Q2 we'll have a what we should have a Q2 server meshing PTU Evocati.
Oh gosh, I
Just
don't think it'll be that soon, but I think it'll be in the dev branch. Remember when they announced, like
mm,
in what was it, August, that PES is working and it's in the dev branch, and the devs are using it. Um, and
I'm
then
just watching 318 and it's like it was a Q2 early Q3 Evocati, so
mhm.
so do I keep you on or do you want to switch out?
You finished the
On the ending in which we call server meshing. Nathaniel.
um yeah, I'll do the next two, and then you can do the last sort of three pieces.
Right.
Um, let's see. Yeah, so we will start with static server meshing, where different servers are assigned to simulate different entity zones in a star system. Entity zones, sometimes referred to as local grids, are separate simulation areas. The inside of a spaceship is a different pardon me, is a different zone to the space around which the spaceship flies. A planet is a different zone than the star system zone, where all the planets and moons exist in. And a landing zone can also be a different zone, nested inside the planet zone, nested inside the star system zone. At first, the servers will be bound to fixed zones, but we will quickly move to dynamic server meshing v1, where we assign servers dynamically to entity zones based on gameplay and simulation load. This will be a much more efficient use of servers in the load, as you only need servers where the players are, whereas with static server meshing, you have servers assigned to zones, even if there are no players there. Um, my question is, have they changed what their plan was from the uh they had that chart in the last letter from the chairman where they said
Mm-hmm.
2 servers for Pyros, 2 servers for Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
With what
Well,
they're saying
the
with this, I
actual
wonder if
words was 4 servers for Stanton and Pipe.
yeah, 4 servers for Stanton and Pyro. I wonder if they are changing that. I wonder if there's a different idea. Um, and
It would come
this is
just
a
because of
really
the
good
maturing
job of
technology.
yeah, this is a really good job of expelling out how dynamic server meshing will progress, in that
Mm-hmm.
uh, as a zone depopulates, they can basically have the parent zone server absorb that zone and turn off that server, but the zones themselves are still static. um, it's
Yeah,
just and then they'll
authority.
yeah, and then instead of having being specific zones, the zones themselves will be dynamic in the future for V2. But yeah, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
talking about
No, it's
your
fine.
part.
It's fine. But the quickly move to dynamic, I wouldn't be shocked if they said Q2 24.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
I
be shocked
mean,
at all.
I think it's definitely going to be within 2 quarters of static server meshing release for dynamic server meshing V1. Because you were talking about it before, and we've talked about it many times.
Yeah.
The their platform costs with static server meshing are going to go up substantially,
Yeah. Like if we just go back up.
especially if they do more than just 2 servers per star system.
Hmm.
Um,
Let's see. Where is platform cost? Other dev costs,
for
overhead,
the
new
financials,
marketing. Yeah.
yeah,
Last year they had platform in here.
yeah, it's always in there.
Headcounts overall. investment. Where are they? It's in the first one. Salary, renting costs, including community and marketing events, other dev costs, contracted dev costs, publishing operations.
It's in
Is it
publishing and
publishing?
marketing. Yeah.
They
And
spent
that's
35 million.
25.
35 million. 25 million. 25 million. Sorry.
Yeah.
$25,448,000 on
In
publishing operations, community events, and marketing. In a year we didn't have an in-person
in 2021.
since,
So
yeah.
and that number goes up based off how many people are playing, blah blah blah, and we had significant player growth. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised
Oh,
if
I don't
we're
want that
well
bill.
over
I don't want that
$30
bill.
million for the publishing and marketing budget. And I don't know what what portion of that goes to publishing, but I'm sure it's a lot, because you can see over the years how much publishing costs them.
I'm not one that wants that bill.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be like 50 million by the time
Oh yeah.
23 financials are out there.
Well, and that's
Alrighty.
that's why they took that minority investment, is that was earmarked for platform, which is publishing costs and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't used hardly any of it. But yeah, moving on, continuing.
Yes, dynamic server meshing v2, or as I'm going to be calling it, dynamic v2. So it's dynamic v1, dynamic v2, and static. Anyway, dynamic server meshing v2 will take this dynamic assignment of servers one step further by subdividing entity zones into simulation islands. This is an organization of dynamic objects into one zone, local grid into a different group, based on which objects can be interacted with or collide with each other, allowing these islands to be distributed between servers to again help balance simulation load. At this point, we should be able to handle tens of thousands of players in the same persistent entity streaming server universe shard, bringing Star Citizen much closer to the ultimate goal of having huge living universes densely populated with players and AI. Tens of thousands! Eye-watering numbers. Holy crap. Once we achieve static server meshing, we can open the universe of Star Citizen to other star systems, starting with Pyro, quickly followed by Nyx, and then, what's the other one that's almost done? Isn't there another one that's almost done? I mean, Lear's there, Odin's done. Anyway, lots of star systems. By having authority pass from one server to another, you'll be able to transition seamlessly without the need of having to log out of the game between star systems. That's a stab at traditional MMOs. I just want to say that right now. That's a stab. Like, he didn't bring up the load screens this time, which has been like their 10-year joke of no load screens. And like, dang, just tens of thousands. It's just blown away by it. Like, that's not like a number he just like thought of. That's where they're aiming. How many we've had what? How many people? How many unique people did he say log on? I think it's like 400. Yeah, 400. So monthly active users, unique monthly active users had a peak during Invictus of 400,000. So tens is more than a couple, at least 20,000 people on a single server. So what is that? Let's do math. 400,000 divided by 20,000. Yeah, that's times. That's not what I meant. 400,000 divided by 20,000 is 20. You have 20 meshes for the entire monthly active user base. And that's assuming everyone's playing at the same time. That 400 monthly active users all logged on at the exact same time. So less than 20 different 20 different meshes, which is insane. Like, contrast that with how many they'd have to have now, with 400,000 divided by just 100, which is 4,000, right? Can't do math in my head. Divided by only 100. 4,000. 4,000 servers we have to have now to get the population of the monthly active users. 20 after dynamic v2. Dang. All right. Yes, it is your turn.
Okay. Let's see.
Going
Yeah, you
right
finished
into
it.
the
So
Pyro.
we're
Also,
we
you should point out that image. That's a new image of Pyro.
yes, and it's gorgeous.
Like it's like
Speaking of,
to say that they're at a
this
Hollywood
clip.
quality. I have
This
not been able
clip
to
is
find that.
nuts.
It's beautiful. I don't know where it is. I want it. I know I think Board's using it. I don't know where he got it from.
What, this clip that we're watching right here?
Yes.
Or you can just download it from the webpage.
Where? How? I tried.
Right click, inspect.
Uh-huh.
And let's see, it's this one or this one. There we go. There we go. Video loop. And there's the MP4. Open a new tab. Download.
Where do you see video loop?
So you have to open up the things, but make it so it shows down.
There are things. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, that's how I get the actual full images, from their website and the clips and stuff that they put in. And
I go to the source page for the images, but I couldn't find the video in the source.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Space Industries. All right.
I love the fog. The fog is so cool. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's a beautiful
Why can't
image.
I fly my spaceship everywhere? Because fog.
Yeah. Let's see. We are aiming to put static server meshing and Pyro into the hands of players in the fourth quarter of 2023. The large caveat with this goal is that complicated engineering work that involves a completely new paradigm. It requires a host of new backend services, and technology is hard to estimate and schedule accurately, as the issues and problems that can come up along the way are hard to foresee, as no one has implemented this system before, and plans rarely survive contact with the users, especially at scale. This has been true for PES, as it is no secret that we are hoping to have Alpha 318 and PES released to live by the end of the year, as opposed to just PTU. Delays in finalizing 318 and PES impact the team's ability to start on the next stage, and we still have the unknowns of how PES performs after months of heavy load, and people seeing exactly how much space junk they can leave around. I'll just finish this one out. Beyond this, there are a host of other exciting features and content we have planned for 2023. Pyro, with its assorted planets, moons, settlements, space stations, and assorted factions and AI population being the headline. But we also will be rolling out the new item resource system in ships, which replaces the old pipe system with a much more dynamic and scalable system to allow for truly emergent behavior. In fact, elements of this new system can already be seen in 318 in the salvage gameplay. Bounty hunting with a full tracking system and the ability to actively restrain and transport both players and AI. Thank God. They're moving along on those systems, those backend services, the AI services. Hooray. Persistent hangars with freight elevators, allowing you to call up your stored inventory or place things into storage. Towards the end of the year, we should see some of the more Squadron 42 related work arrive in Star Citizen. More flexible player traversal, especially on ladders and ledges, a greatly improved interaction system, FPS scanning, the new star map, MFDs using the more performant and flexible building blocks UI system, and much deeper combat AI. Now that the Gen 12 render is functioning in 3.18, the graphics team will work on multi-threading improvements and optimizations for the renderer, as well as hook up the Vulkan graphics API to it to unlock some of the performance gains that the Gen 12 renderer can provide. There are numerous other things the Star Citizen the Star Citizen team are working on for this year, but this letter is already long enough.
Now I could stand it a little bit longer.
Yeah, give me more. I'll take it. I'll let you take the
Like,
first half of the final thoughts.
all right. And that we have the roadmap for the graphics team. After the improvements and optimization, the next thing on the docket is things like ray tracing and VR. So keep that in mind as we go through this next year. Like they don't know what tech they'll be looking into. They just know that now after Vulkan is done, they can move on to implementing newer and better things. Final thoughts. Looking back on 2022, it has been gratifying to see Cloud Imperium and Star Citizen community grow. We ended the year with 861 employees, and the community grew more than 4 million accounts and 1.8 million backers, accounts that have purchased Star Citizen. We've achieved a lot this year, including our move to 2 wonderful new homes for most of our staff. We fell short on a few others, like having 318 and PES full live before the end of the year, but this is the nature of game development, that tries to boldly go where no game has gone before. You want me to do the last one up here?
Yeah, go for it. I'll
Okay.
take the bottom half.
Okay. What has especially been great is just how much more time people are spending playing Star Citizen this year. This has a lot to do with increased player counts and improved stability, but also Star Citizen, even in its alpha state, is already feature and content rich with a huge number of things to do. With your friends or solo, this list grows larger with every patch. Answers.
There we go. The universe and how you interact with it is up to you. From exploring to hauling, trading, mining, salvage, refueling, refining, bounty hunting, piracy, to being a hired gun, to just sightseeing and being a social butterfly. And that is just what we have now. In the future, you will be able to farm or gather other resources, build, craft, and sell. The universe of Star Citizen is a huge sandbox for everyone to play in, and I couldn't be more excited by what the future holds. Star Citizen is more than just a game. It is an escape to another reality where anyone can pursue their imagination, not bound to a single playstyle or profession, where they can interact with other players that share in the same common dream. I feel incredibly lucky and privileged to have the opportunity to pursue this dream with the amazingly talented team at Cloud Imperium and the support and patience of the best community in gaming, the Star Citizen community. From all of us at Cloud Imperium, we wish you all a happy new year and can't wait to continue the journey with you in 2023. Star Citizen is more than just a game, it is an escape to another reality. A lot of people
I
need
don't
to
know if
read
it's the
that.
marketing team or if it's Chris Roberts really hates the word metaverse.
Yeah.
Like every other company's like, oh, we're building on metaverse because it's like fully realized and stuff. They have said that kind of sentence so many times, like a fully realized environment to be a person in a world to escape to another reality. Like they've said something like that so many times, and they always define metaverse without saying metaverse.
Yep.
It's great. I love it. Good job. Chris Roberts, founder and CEO of Cloud Imperium Game. If we don't hear from you soon, we'll see you at CitizenCon. And ta-da, we did it! A full web stream. Get
Hooray!
out! Get out! Get out of here!
God damn it, Blizzred. That statement alone is a war crime. You are a war criminal.
I don't want my cookies tracked in NFTs.
We're not going to go over it. This is already a 3-hour long podcast. But I know that this is a lot of gobbledygook, but I highly recommend you, if you have the time, just go through the financial reports.
The
Even if you just
graphs.
read it and you ignore some of the verbiage that doesn't make sense. I'm not an economist or a an accountant or anything like that, but there are tidbits of information in here that are of value, and it is important to recognize, how where funding has gone. This is a basically an exponential curve that we're riding right now, especially because this is 2021 and 2022 is essentially up here. It's just nuts. But one thing I wanted to point out, because I had this discussion with someone on Facebook, because they were like, "Oh, I'm so glad that CIG finally is turning a profit, and things are turning around for CIG. Like, woe is them." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, they, for 5 years, they didn't turn a profit." I'm like, "Yeah, they were trying to spend that money. They were trying to grow the company. They weren't concerned with turning a profit." And he's like, "Yeah,
And turning a
companies aren't."
profit can be actually bad for bigger
Yeah,
companies.
turning a profit is bad for big companies, especially when you're trying to invest in, in growth and development in capital expenditures, because that's money that just essentially gets wasted because it gets taxed
Hmm.
at a higher rate. They try to go in the black, especially because, if you're going in the black relative to what you earned that year, but you have a surplus from years prior, that's a good thing. It means you're spending the money you're bringing in as well as some of the money you have saved in order to make more money, which is exactly what
I
CIG is doing.
I missed Trooper's comment about legs.
Oh,
It's
jeez.
not a simulated video. It's actually real.
So
I don't know
one
if you
thing I
know what that's
wanted to
referencing.
bring up really quickly is, so here is CIG's income, net pledges and income less cost, capex, and expenses. So here is, at the end of 2012, here is how much money CIG had, in the bank after all their, all their costs, everything that they had to pay for. Here's what they had in 2013 after everything they had to pay for. And
Oh, that's why it's screwed up.
here's what they had in 2014. So, but here is the additive of what those things are. So by the end of 2014, CIG was sitting on a surplus of $25 million. $25 million. And so they're like, God dang, we can't just sit on this money, And 2014 is when they realized, hey, we can make a much bigger game. This is when the transition happened from that very small, much more limited experience freelancer 2.0 to what we're going on now. The basically 2014 to 2015. And that's when they started ramping up investment and hiring and building offices in order to build that different game. And so they didn't turn a profit in 2015. They spent more money than they made, but they had $25 million left in the bank going into 2015. And even after
We made
2015,
plans.
they still had $19 million left. And even after 2016, remember, they only barely didn't turn a profit in 2016, and they were growing, and they still had $19 million left. And again, they spent more than they earned in 2017, continuing to grow, and they still had a $14 million surplus. And so they're like, okay, we're continuing to grow, expand our offices, hire more and more people, and even after 2018, they spent $7 million more than they made in 2018 on growth, but they still had almost $7 million sitting in the bank. $7 million. And that's when but at this point, what was going on is they realized how, with the amount of people coming into the game and playing the game, let's see, we'll open this in a new tab. Their publishing and marketing costs were going up substantially. They're spending, because they weren't doing hardly any marketing, they were spending a ton of money on publishing the platform, how much money they have to give to Amazon to host and run the game. And so they're spending millions of dollars. And so what they did is when they took that private investment, they like, hey, we don't want to spend money for marketing uh, and platform costs out of our development budget. And so we're going to take that, initially it was 48 million, and then they took an additional 15 million on top of that. 46 million and then 17, sorry. Here and here, in order to have this surplus and then spend this surplus on this line item in the budget. And so they were planning on making it so that way they could continue to invest in all of these people, the development, the developer costs, without having to spend this money out of what they earn every year. Basically just say, okay, we've got $63 million to spend on this for however many years it takes us to grow the game and then be cash positive every year. Well, they didn't plan on making a crap ton of money in 2020. And so when that happened, they're like, okay, we need to spend this money because we want to be closer to spending the surplus. Yeah, they want to be spending that surplus on this. The only problem with that is they're wanting to spend the money on that surplus, but the amount of money that they made ruined those plans. if CIG had known that they were going to make this much money in 2020, they would have spent more money on things in 2020. They would have hired more people. They would have opened more positions. Done whatever they needed to do, because instead, 2020, they had they didn't spend enough money, and they had they had a profit essentially. And so they're like, well, crap, okay, we'll put some of that money back into our surplus. We'll also spend some of this, they took some of that money in order to pay for these, for this sort of stuff. That's why this went down, but they put that money back in the bank. And so CIG is making money faster than they can spend it right now. That's the thing, is people are like, why aren't they hiring more people to make the game go faster? They've got 140 open positions. They're trying. They're paying people what they can in order to try and retain them long term. Certain people they don't want to retain. It is what it is. It's not always worth it to retain people if you can try and find somebody better. But the fact that the cumulative net position has even after the investment still continued to go up despite CIG's growth, it means that CIG didn't anticipate this much money coming in. They didn't anticipate this much money coming in. And when 2022 comes out and you see that it's up to here, it's going to be like, holy crap. We are trying to spend this money. We don't know what to, we can't spend it fast enough, and they're trying to grow. That's why it was Nazeris. When did they come out with that statement that they're trying to get to 1,000 people for the studio by 2023 and 1,300 people total by 2026? I forget what article that was in.
It was before the last chairman left.
Yeah, it was in. I want to say it was in 2020 when they first said that. It was 2020 when they first said that. Something like, it was 2020, or maybe it was in 2021 when they said that. Because it was in 2020, because to get to 1,000 people in 2023 meant that they would have to hire 300 people in 3 years. And then to get to an additional 300 people in 2026, it would mean they would have to hire an additional 300 people in the following 3 years after that. Well,
also, if you go to the colorful bar graph,
this guy,
not that one, the one with the yellow in it, the other one, the yellow, the CapEx, I remember that one from last year. That's basically taxes. Just imagine that as taxes. Not only sales, but it's mostly taxes that had, or money that had to go to employees, but not salary.
Yeah.
So 2020, the reason that's so big is one, they had a surplus of money, a lot of surplus of money. Two, pandemic safety. So anything they spent on their employees during the pandemic, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's why that's a bit bigger right there and only there. And
But
why
yeah.
it shrunk back up for 2021.
We are in the letter. He just said that they're like 860 people, and they are behind on their hiring despite their best efforts, and they have all those positions open because they have the positions open in order to reach that goal of 1,000 people. And but I forget how many they said that they hired this last year. But I think they said that they had hired 70 during the last chairman's letter. And so I think that they are close to what they or tried to hire in 2022. And so if they can hire about what they hired in 2022 in 2023, they'll be pretty close to the goal of 1,000 person studio. But that's the thing is they are trying. They're trying to spend that money. But now that they have all this extra money from 2022, I wouldn't be surprised if CIG devs started to get a raise. And because they already have, they have good benefits, they have great places to work. But with that extra money from 2022, I think you're also going to see another big capex, like in 2020, where they're paying in advance to negotiate for the development of new studios in Austin and Santa Monica, or a new studio like in Korea, because they have all this money coming in and they need to tap other labor markets beyond the ones that they already have, especially because labor and overhead costs, like for the Austin office, are stupid expensive because Austin is such an expensive place to live right now. And real estate is so expensive in Austin. Of course, Santa Monica is the same thing and always will be. But they'll always maintain a presence in Santa Monica, but they have to try and expand to other places.
Blizzrad's gonna make me ban him.
Blizzrad, god damn it. But yeah, that was the only things I wanted to mention from the
Trooper. Don't feed it.
Don't feed the monkey. Yeah, don't feed our Australian monkey or whatever. Yeah, our Tasmanian devil, whatever we're gonna call you, Blizzrad.
Yeah.
But those are the things I wanted to mention from the financial report. So yeah,
I want to know about their Asian market. Kiwi Storm.
Yeah.
I will be looking into this.
One last thing I forgot to mention, and this just popped up today, like this afternoon or whatever, in my bot thing that trolls Spectrum and Reddit and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So someone made this post following the letter from the chairman. It says, "What does Chris's prediction account for?" In the letter from the chairman, we have a 2023 Q4 prediction for static server meshing. What is this prediction accounting for? Does it assume the work goes forward with minimal hiccups? Does it assume the work goes forward with substantial issues that need to be worked on, e.g. what we've seen with PES? Ergo, I'm guessing it doesn't assume something will happen that will require a total reconcepting of server meshing, like what happened with iCache. I know asking how long a program will take to complete is like asking how long is a piece of string, but I'm trying to manage my expectations here. Like if you said the prediction assumes minimal hiccups, I wouldn't be particularly disheartened if Q4 rolls around and it's not quite there. I would just assume that is the earliest possible date it would show up.
That's a good post. That's a good post. Well done.
Yeah, it is a good post, and it's very fair. And Clive Johnson. So if you don't know who Clive Johnson is, Clive Johnson is the server meshing guy. He
Yeah.
is.
If Tony's the god of the simulation, this is the god of servers.
Yeah, this is the god of server meshing and PES and all the network stuff. Like the one who has been the guy for the entirety since that became a thing in our consciousness. So
He's got a
take
world
what Clive
hockey.
Johnson says as gospel. Server meshing is very much a research and development project, and as such, it's not possible to accurately estimate how long it will take. Chris's letter from the chairman carefully qualified the Q4 2023 date for static server meshing as something we are aiming for, but not guaranteed. I recommend viewing it in that light, as we are as a target we are trying to hit, intended to focus R&D effort rather than an actual estimate of how much work is involved. My personal opinion is that this target, while ambitious, is not unreasonable and should allow enough room for us to hit some moderate speed bumps along the way. But if we encounter too many unexpected problems, or enough of those problems can't be resolved quickly enough, then it will obviously impact the final delivery date. So,
Nice.
yeah, if Clive Johnson says that it is ambitious but not unreasonable, and that it allows room for moderate speed bumps, that's
Dave Johnson.
a good prediction. It to me, it's a reasonable prediction.
And don't underestimate these devs when they see CitizenCon on the horizon.
Yeah,
They
and
start to work hard willingly.
yeah, and they're back in the office and all that stuff. But the other thing is, this is moderate speed bumps, and this is taking into account for, okay, this is what happened with PES. We are adjusting our expectations, and that's what this is. We have adjusted our expectations, and this is what we're accounting for: moderate speed bumps along the way, blah blah blah. So I feel even better now about Q4 2024. I think that they're trying to when CR says Q4 2024, he's saying early Q4 2024, as in October. Do I think it could miss release of October in October at CitizenCon? Yes, absolutely. But I think it could release before the end of the year, and instead we will see a PTU by that time, give or take. In that we're adding 2 to 3 months, you know, onto the expectation, and that it's really end of Q4, more likely for release, if that makes sense. So, because that, if you think about it, if we're looking at a Evo in September, PTU in October of 2024, that's 9 months. That's a long time, especially given that they have already been working on all the services for server meshing. They're not starting at square zero. Okay, now PES is in game. We just have to wrap it up, and then we can start at square zero with server meshing. That is not how it works. The various services for server meshing have been worked on already considerably. They've already been working on them. They were on the progress tracker. You can go back and look at those things. It's the work is well underway. So we shall see. But I'm cautiously optimistic, and it'll be really interesting to see. So now we can wrap up the podcast.
Yay!
Yay! If you're still here hanging out with Nazeris and I, just want to say thank you for hanging out with us. And before Nazeris gives us his final well wishes and final thoughts, I just want to remind everyone, if you're new here, this is your first time watching or watching later on YouTube, this is a charity driven channel. So everything monetization wise that I get from Twitch and YouTube, not monetized on YouTube yet, but we're more than halfway there. It all goes to stackup.org. So if you give me a follow, if you watch the podcast, if you subscribe on here, subscribe on YouTube, all that sort of stuff, it's all super appreciated and all goes to a good cause. And I just want to say thank you in advance.
Good.
Yep.
All right. As far as my house cleaning bits, a new thing has been started this week, which is a pre-show for the podcast, which is hosted over on my YouTube channel. That starts at 8 p.m. EST. So depending on if we start at 8 or 10, just depends on scheduling that week. There will be an hour or 2 hours of pre-show. It's a much more informal. Let's just talk about random Star Citizen stuff. Nothing is pre-prepared for the pre-show. What is it? Also, we won't have a podcast next week, though we will have a basically all pre-show show next week. So it's just talking about Star Citizen. We might do a little bit of SketchUp work because I am designing or trying to design an Argo carrier or Argo cargo freighter to compete with the Upper Hull series. So that will be fun. And that is all I got. So thank you everyone for showing up. It has been a blast. I'm so glad that we're back doing this. And
Same.
here's to an amazing 2023 because I don't know about Tree's personal life that much, but as far as mine, Star Citizen, and everything, it seems it's a bright first 3 days so far. 2 days, and we're just into the third now. And we got CES, which means there's going to be a whole bunch of tech stuff coming out over the next month. Super good. I can't wait to see all devs back in the office, refreshed and getting on their stuff. CitizenCon at the end of the year, and our journey until that. And I'm trying. I'm gonna say this as many times as I can till my mouth falls off. Anyway, I'm trying to get dependent on YouTube for life-sustaining income as I try and transition to a full-time YouTuber instead of a part-time trash retail employee. So for those of you who want to support that endeavor, I don't know where exactly it's at Nazeris on YouTube. Not sure where I put that. Basically, just at Nazeris on YouTube. It's fine. Nazeris/YouTube or YouTube/Nazeris. There we go. So it's been going so well so far. So again, thank you everyone who has helped support and support this channel as well. Because like Tree said, it's all for charity, for a good cause. But anyway, thank you all for coming. It's been great. I look forward to many, many more. Hopefully, 52 more or 51 more this year. There we go. And as always, be kind. Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.